Got it. We're going to have some football conversation today, a little hockey talk with Julie Stewart-Biggs. Hour number 3 will be my guy Zachariah. I think we'll focus on some football and some hoops with him. There was some interesting basketball in the association last night, some things that gave me, I think, a little better insight to what the Utah Jazz are facing. Utah Hockey Club is back in action tonight against a very good Carolina Hurricanes team. So I'm going to be there. I don't know how high my hopes are for a win for the Utah Hockey Club. Vemelka is going to be in goal. And as we talked about with Bell Fraser yesterday, he has not been supported with any offense. He's the pitcher who can't get the bats going to save his life for whatever reason. So we'll get to all of that on the show today. I had the pleasure of hosting the Kyle Whittingham Coaches Show last night up there at the facility. And for me, interesting experience, some good takeaways. Smith Snowden sat down with me as a player guest, as did Munir McClain. You can find both of those on the ESPN 700 app. You can find them on our website. You can always stream any of our archive content. It was tweeted out as well from the official ESPN 792.1 FM page. My guy James Peterson is producing today. Looking forward to having him back on the show and getting some of his thoughts. James, I don't know if you heard me the other day. I almost did another movie reference with Hook. Did you hear about this?
I missed it.
Okay.
I am so mad that I missed this.
Well, you didn't miss a lot because I started to reference the movie Hook.
You stopped yourself. You're like, wait a minute.
And then I checked with Zach. I said, hey, you're so young. Have you even seen the movie Hook? And he said, yeah.
Oh.
I said, what's it about? And he goes, I forgot. I said, you haven't seen the movie Hook.
He doesn't have – it's okay if you haven't seen it, Zach. It's all right. You don't have to act like, yeah.
So I stopped it right there. The reference I was going to give, I can use it now, right? You know when they're eating and he finally starts to do the imagination thing?
Yes.
And the
scene.
The little chubby kid comes up and grabs his face. There you are, Peter. Yes. Like makes him smile. There you are, Peter. Finally recognizes that it is indeed Peter Pan. You understand the scene. We all remember this scene,
there
right?
you are, Peter. It's a great scene.
My reference was that happened for me at the Utah football game against BYU. That first half of Utah versus BYU was grabbing a hold of the Utah football face and mashing it around and saying, there you are, Peter, because it looked like the Utes. It looked like what we kind of expected them to be this year.
There you are, Utes.
And it happened for 30 minutes, and then after that, the offense went back to the unfortunate, abysmal performance.
We got to put our heads together for like 2010s era movies that give the same messages that we're trying to get for when Zach fills in for Alonzo.
Yeah, it's the difference. It's like the crystallized memory thing. The stuff that you remember from way back, you remember and can recall a lot more easily. And the stuff that's more recent, like I haven't memorized lines or songs or anything for the last 20 years of my life.
No.
I don't know why. I guess becoming an adult ruins your precociousness.
Yeah. And we're both I'm noticing myself becoming more of that guy who only talks about 90s and 2000s era movies. That always bugged me about guys who talk about 70s or 80s era sports or pop culture all the time. I'm starting to become that guy. I'm noticing post 30 it starts to happen.
Just wait till you get to your 40s, bud.
Yeah. It's all right.
All right, more salient and pressing issues than who can understand my references and who cannot here in the ESPN 700 family.
There's nothing more salient than that. Sorry.
Kyle Whittingham did confirm on the coaches show last night the rumors that we had been hearing and that we discussed a little bit on the show yesterday. Brandon Rose, injured and out for the rest of the year.
Yeah, what did he say, 6 to 8 months even? He even gave a timeline for us.
Yeah, he's looking at 6 to 8 months. So, the injury that I heard it requires surgery, and that usually when you're talking about a 6 to 8 month recovery, that indicates that surgery is probably in the cards. He also said something earlier in the week that Cam Rising just had a surgery. Cam Rising, I don't think is going to be part of Utah football's future on the field. All the indications I've gotten from both sides of the fence there are that, it's a move on type of situation. I think probably to pro football for Cam, but there is an option for him still with more eligibility to potentially land somewhere else in the transfer portal. If you don't believe in these final 3 games that you get anything concrete, I don't know what Utah's stance on bringing him back really truly is. But so in any case, you've got a situation now where you're down. You started the season with 5 quarterbacks, and it was really like you had your starter and then 4 guys that were going to try to figure out the pecking order. And now you're down to 2. Now it's Isaac Wilson and Luke Pittari.
Yeah. The Ferrari, as Spence likes to say.
He did start against Colorado last year.
He's already 1-0 against Colorado.
He's 1-0 against Coach Prime.
That was at Rice Eccles, though. Different thing in Boulder, right?
What a cool little trivia question about your own life.
Does he want to start? Does he want to ruin his undefeated record potentially?
There's going to be a Christmas party 20 years in the future where Luke Pittari is there with his spouse and, kids are running around and it's 2 truths and a lie, and one of his truths is going to be, I was undefeated against Deion Sanders, who at that point will have retired from coaching after probably a Florida State stint and an NFL stint.
And who knows, maybe he's a champion at both levels. Maybe he's a really good coach at both levels by that point. Yeah.
And Luke Pittari is going to get to do his 2 truths and a lie and be like, I was undefeated playing against Coach Prime teams. And people are going to be like, what?
They're like, wait, you're too young to play in the NFL when he was in the league. No. When he coached teams.
By then, the sunshine blonde hair is going to have retreated back and is going to be thinned on top, and he'll have a little pot belly. It's
maybe it'll still be long, but it'll look a little more sad.
It'll be a little bit more like, hey, it's time to cut that. So that's an opportunity for Luke Pittari to be 1-0 against Coach Prime.
In light of that, is he telling Coach Bajakian? Is he telling Coach Witt? You know what? The shoulder's a little sore.
He's limping around in practice. She's like, I don't know what it's just a little tweak, nothing serious, but my hamstrings kind of bother me. No, in all seriousness, it is the quarterback situation at Utah is dire, and there are 2 ways that you could approach this. Well, there's more than 2. There's a lot of ways that you could approach this. The 2 that I think about, right? Now you are, without question, all in on developing Isaac Wilson and seeing what you truly have. And I put a poll question out with that in mind, as I'm wont to do on the show. I like to try and get people interacting. There's a few of them out there today. Brandon Rowe's done for the year. It's officially the Isaac Wilson show against the Buffs. What's the best way to set him up for success? Do you just run the damn ball? Just run the ball 70% of the time, and you only pass it to keep the box honest whenever they start to overload things, and you're not even expecting the passing game to really generate much? Do you let him show off his arm? Do you let him air it out a little bit? Do you say, you know what, dude, the season's kind of lost anyway. Just go out there, have some fun, and start whipping this thing around the yard. It's not an easy thing to do against Colorado, especially on one side of the field, because they have the best defensive back in the country over there.
Why don't you just go ahead, just throw at Travis Hunter every play.
How
just
awesome
go
would that
ahead.
be? What if they were just like, hey, you know what? Just let it all hang out, and I just want you to go at Travis Hunter's neck. Let's see if we can wear this guy out, which you can't, by the way.
Just throw at him every play. Let's see. He'll either break the NCAA record for interceptions in a game, or PBUs in a game, or you're gonna show us something awesome.
Another option in my Twitter poll: short routes and screens, or give him the whole playbook. And when you give him the whole playbook, you are almost certainly overloading his mentality. You're overloading his ability to go through progressions. You're probably gonna dial up a couple of miscues on accident because he's still a true freshman. He doesn't have full mastery yet of this very complicated offense. But isn't now the time to really see what you've got? The training wheels have been off of Isaac Wilson.
Let him loose.
And Andy Ludwig, before he stepped away, actually said, we're to a point now where you don't really have to adjust the play calling all that much. Now, I think that was a verbal vote of confidence for the young man. I don't know how much that was a reality, but I'm talking about in real time, in a real situation, you're going against a team that is right now better than you. You might as well just see what you've got. And it is counterintuitive to a player or coach mentality, but do you care if you win this game against Colorado? Like on a very real level, on a deep level, as a Utah football fan, does beating Colorado do anything for you? Yeah, I mean, it gets you one win away from a bowl eligibility situation. Yes, it allows you the bragging rights over Coach Prime, again, who is in some ways sort of the antithesis of what your coach and your program have been. Like, there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of flash, there's a lot of over the top type of attention, and Utah's kind of been on the opposite side of that. I don't know if people dislike Prime for bringing all that to Colorado. I don't know if people dislike the swagger and they dislike the sort of just cut of his jib. I like it. I enjoy it. I am happy to call out some of the hypocrisy that comes with it occasionally because
a Buffs fan likes it.
When the thing
it's
with
been a long time since you considered yourself a Buffs fan.
Yeah,
though, right?
grew. Yes, I was a Buffs. I was a Buffs fan when I was 12 years old. All right, but one of the interesting things about Coach Prime and one of the things I really like about Deion Sanders as a coach is that he is out there, he is forward-facing, he's front-facing, he's doing his propaganda machine, even when it's not working out well for him. And, like, he'll sit down and he'll say things that he knows he's going to get backlash on, or he says them not knowing he's going to get backlash and then kind of accepts that there's backlash and doesn't really change his habits because of the backlash. There are coaches that are in Coach Prime's position where they're really forward-facing, they're really verbal, they're really whatever, and then they get called out for something like that was stupid, or your guys did something they shouldn't have done, or whatever, or they get in an argument with a reporter, and he's been in like 3 of these already, right? And then they start to kind of like, well, you know what? Never mind. I'm not talking to these people anymore. Coach Prime doesn't do that. Deion, he kind of takes his lumps, and then he sits down and does it again the next week.
Yeah, there's a likability to that kind of genuineness.
Or even the embracing of the unlikability, right?
Yeah.
He kind of doesn't care if people like him or not, and I'm on board with that.
Redeeming value to it, for sure.
I overuse the phrase, but as a coach, you live or die by your own sword. That's if you're going to get a job like that, or like this, honestly. If you're going to do a radio show, you're going to do a television show, you're going to do you're going to have a social media kind of like influencer position.
An influencer, yeah.
If you're going to be a coach, you want to be like, you either want to have success or failure based on your own preferences.
Well, as long as people are watching, right? Long as people keep watching or keep clicking, no matter depending on the medium, man.
Like Stephen A. Smith, even though I don't like that particular approach, Stephen A. Smith would be doing that. Well, you can't even use the hypothetical. You can't even say would be. But he did that in the early stages of his career, knowing that it was either going to be hit or miss, I think.
Yeah.
And it hit. He's the highest paid guy in media, basically. Pat McAfee. We're watching him on the television show right now. Pat McAfee has evolved from being a punter in the NFL into being like sort of a one-man monopoly on the I don't give a bleep media perspective. And he employs his friends. A.J. Hawk is next to him on my television screen. A.J. Hawk is not particularly good at anything.
In fact, it bugs me because most of the time they do the split screen and A.J. Hawk isn't talking. Most of the time it's just he's just there.
I did a bunch of shows, like a ton of shows. I mean, I'm talking dozens and dozens of shows.
He's a great Buckeye, so we give him that. But that's about it.
I did dozens of shows with AJ Hawk on Sirius XM radio before I landed on like the actual Pac-12 channel. We did MMA shows together. We did some college football shows together. He's fine. But is he an asset to the number one midday show in the country?
Yeah.
Pat McAfee doesn't care. He does it his own way, and he keeps signing these big deals because of it. Joe Rogan's podcast is the same thing. Deion Sanders took that approach when he was the head coach at Jackson State, and he has taken that approach at the University of Colorado, and he's not the only guy, certainly. Dabo Swinney's done it his way at Clemson. For better or worse, and by the way, mostly recently for worse because he won't adjust to the new time. It's been
both. It's certainly been both for Dabo. They've had a bit of a resurgence this year, but not the level that they were at when they were winning national championships.
I go all the way back to when Kalani Sitake was trying to get it figured out, like what the culture was going to be, and hey, can I hire just all of my friends, and can this be successful? And I said back then, when it was getting a little bit dicey, don't change a thing. Live or die by your own sword. And he did make adjustments. He did change things. He did adjust his staff. And obviously the results are there right now for BYU. Kyle Whittingham is going to live or die by his own sword. Right now for Utah, unfortunately, uniquely in this 2024 season, there's been more bleeding. But Deion Sanders is really, really fascinating and really, really interesting in that regard.
Yeah, and listen, I think that the people that don't like him or have decided they don't like him and don't like Colorado is the unearned attention that they've gotten because of how charismatic Deion Sanders is and because of how big a name he is. I think it's mostly that, and I think that there's probably, for that same reason, there's probably been less that don't like Colorado and Deion Sanders this year because, number one, they've earned that with their play, and also they haven't gotten as much.
Is there such thing as unearned attention? Is that an oxymoron? Because in order for people to pay attention,
see Dallas Cowboys coverage on every national TV and radio.
Whether you're earning it for good reasons or bad reasons, you're earning it.
I mean, you're earning it. Yeah, you're earning it in some way. You're right. Nothing's ever completely unearned because even if the example I just brought up, Cowboys have a huge national fan base, so that's how they've earned all that attention. And also they're super wealthy, and Jerry Jones, their owner, is everywhere, that's how they've earned their attention. Unearned in a sense that unearned is hey, can Cowboys win the Super Bowl this year? That's been unearned for almost 30 years.
So you're correct on that. So I think you've canceled my point that maybe there's no such thing as unearned attention. In the case of Coach Prime, in the case of Colorado football and of Deion Sanders, I would push back on the idea that a lot of this attention was unearned. Now, last year's obsession with Colorado, who ended up not being a good team, was like, all right, can we just shut up about it a little bit? But what he did, he did something unprecedented in his head coaching experience, which was very limited at Jackson State. He got the number one recruit in the country to go to an HBCU. Now, he used money to do that, but he still had to tell Travis Hunter, trust me. You're going to the NFL someday no matter what. Don't go to Georgia. Don't go to Alabama. Don't go to Notre Dame. Don't go to Ohio State.
Commit at the time, I think. He flipped him from FSU.
Don't go to Florida State. Don't go to Florida. Don't go to any of these traditional powerhouses who were always paying, by the way, even when it wasn't legal. Trust me, young man, to get you to where you need to be. That right there earns you some attention.
It's true.
And then he made them a nationally relevant story because of his own charisma, and they won a bunch of football games.
Yeah, they were nearly undefeated every year he was there.
And then, by the way, he got all of the good players from that Jackson State team to follow him from the Deep South to Boulder, Colorado. That is not a natural transition for a lot of the players.
They filled, what did they have, 30-something thousand people, or was it 50-something thousand people at the stadium for their first spring game, first time in forever?
And then he decided he was going to take control of and curate his own social media presence, and he showed us the conversation he was having with the previous guys. I'm bringing my luggage with me, and it's Louis. It's better than what you are. I'm challenging you. Get out of here so I can make space for the better talent. And the guys who stayed had some success, and the guys who left and were petulant about it, and it's fine. And look, all of that was fascinating. So all that was earned attention. And then, yes, they lost a bunch of games, and they didn't deliver on the promise of like, hey, we're going to be better in the trenches. And yeah, he talked a little trash and did some things.
You believe me now?
Yeah, that was stupid, right? But again, he takes that on the chin, right? And he sits down and he does it again. And now they're a good football team. And Utah's got to find a way to beat them with a true freshman quarterback going up against the guy who's going to be a top 5 draft pick. That's who you're dueling it out against. Now, it's not QB versus QB. It's actually, I talked to Smith Snowden about this last night. It's actually that defensive unit and the defensive backs very specifically who are really up against Shedeur Sanders and that crew of wide receivers that does include Travis Hunter, who I will say for the 750th time this year should win the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah.
And if you're Smith Snowden, there's a situation in which you're going up against a guy who's a top 10 receiver in the country, who's also a top 5 defensive back in the country, and you're trying to defend him, and you're trying to show him, I belong in the same categorization as you. I belong in the same conversation. People can talk about me the way they talk about you eventually here. And that is the challenge, and they embrace the challenge. The Utah defense has been up to the challenge, and the offense hasn't helped them out. Colorado scores points, man. They're a difficult team to beat. And by the way, Utah, who's been good against the run traditionally and still is good against the run this year, although not quite as potent against the run as
not
they usually
up to
are.
Their standard.
That is less important in this game than it's been in any other game of the year.
I was just going to say that. That's the silver lining for Utah in this game is that Colorado is probably, no matter how many times they run the ball, they're probably not going to bludgeon them the way the Utes have been bludgeoned at times in the run game, at least comparative to their historic standard.
I put out a question also in regard to kickoff times because you just had a rivalry game played at 8:15 in November. A little bit chilly, but it had been a beautiful day. The fans showed up. Utah fans showed up, showed out. Rice Eccles was a great atmosphere. The visiting fans were there as well, but it was phenomenal. It was a record crowd.
It was that night game atmosphere that everyone was talking about was going to happen against Arizona that just didn't quite come to fruition. That was the atmosphere, and we criticize Utah fans for not bringing that atmosphere at different times this year. They brought it against BYU.
They brought it against BYU. That was a night game, and then there's like the kind of like middle of the day prime, like 1 to 3 p.m. eats up your whole Saturday kind of contest. Yeah. And then there's the morning kick, which is what you're getting against the University of Colorado. This is the big noon kickoff game, and 10 a.m. Utah's going to be on the field. 10 a.m. Mountain Time. I love it. But I wanted to see what the people thought about it. So we'll get to all of those things. We're going to discuss your thoughts on what the best way to set Isaac Wilson up for success. I framed, I hope successfully yesterday, kind of what he is up against, being someone who has been given the vote of confidence and then had that taken away and then given the vote of confidence again and now taken away again. And then, okay, now we're going with you, dog. So let's see what it is. Like, daunting task for a freshman quarterback. Do you believe that Isaac Wilson has what it takes? We'll get to all of this on the Sean O'Connell Show as we're just getting rolling on a Wednesday. Reminder to all of you, the opening segment of the Sean O'Connell Show is brought to you by Alvi Armani. If you're having hair issues, gentlemen or ladies, maybe your hair's thinning more than you'd like, just let Alvi Armani help you out. You can find them online at alviarmani.com. Tell them ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM sent you, part of the Utah ESPN radio network.
Now they go to JC. Has struggles with the ball. Flip patient and puts it down with two hands.
Filipowski dunking it home in NBA Cup action. Ultimately, a loss to the Suns last night. He had 18 points, 6 rebounds, 2 blocks. So great game for Filipowski. That sound courtesy of Smith Entertainment Group Media. Craig Bowlerjack, of course, on the call. James Peterson, are you devastated that the Jazz are not in the driver's seat for NBA Cup championship?
You know, it is the most important title in the NBA now, right? Like the NBA Cup. Everyone's going for the cup. You've seen all the promos. Everyone's super pumped about it. No, it's fine. It's fine. Although, I am going to make sure I'm in attendance for their next NBA Cup game because Wemby is coming to town for the next home NBA Cup game for the Jazz. A week, I guess 2 weeks from yesterday.
So Victor Wembanyama is one of the, like, if you can buy a ticket to see somebody that's not in a Jazz uniform, you got to get out. You got to see LeBron before LeBron is done. So you can say,
if he ever plays in Salt Lake again, of course.
That's true. Any chance you can get to see Steph Curry in person, you got to take that.
Yeah.
Victor Wembanyama, you got a lot of time. He's going to be playing for a lot of years. Victor Wembanyama is one of those guys. You have got to get out there to an arena and see Victor Wembanyama play in person.
I was shocked, OC. I have a number of friends and family members who have season tickets. I was shocked at the amount of people that did not go to either of the Spurs games last year. After all the hype about Wemby going into the draft the year before. And listen, those were 2 games like I honestly last year was like, I'll skip a lot of the home games with my media credential, but I'm going to be at both Spurs games, and he delivered. So if you're one of those people that decided to sell, maybe you just couldn't pass up the amount of money that you could make by selling your season tickets last year, go to at least one of the home games against the Spurs this year. The next one being the 26th, Thanksgiving week. He will. I guess that'll be the last one because they already had the home game.
That's right. They're playing all of them before December 1st.
Yeah, go to the one on the 26th because it's your last chance to see him this year, especially if you didn't get to see him last year, because he delivers every single time, or at least against the Jazz he has. And you know what? The Jazz may end up winning because. And if you're wanting to see a Jazz win, the Jazz may end up winning because the Spurs aren't very good either. There's that reason too.
As a Jazz fan, you probably don't want to see the Jazz win right now, which is such a weird dynamic.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's one of the winnable games for him against a team like the Spurs. Gordy and I talked about this yesterday. Like, a real sign of your growth for the Utah Jazz is, are you able to beat teams that are in your same world, that are in the middle of rebuilds or just starting out rebuilds or having a hard time kind of figuring out their identity, et cetera, et cetera. That's the teams you need to be able to show everyone you can beat. You're not going to beat a bunch of other teams. And I watched some Warriors Mavs last night as well. And you look around the rest of the West, it reminds you, one of the most startling and stunning things about watching Jazz basketball right now and watching some of those other teams, it reminds you just how far away this Jazz roster truly is. Like, the Golden State Warriors, from a roster building standpoint, are like 3 levels below what they were in their actual prime, when they had Steph and Clay and Durant and Draymond and a nice little cast of supporting characters. And now they've got Steph and what I think is a past the prime Draymond.
Yeah.
And
no question.
And like some interesting sort of like Moneyball type characters. But Golden State is still so significantly better equipped to win at a real clip than the Utah Jazz. And that's not to disparage the Jazz. It's just to acknowledge, like, in the West especially, the climb is daunting. It is very, very significant. And
the gap is real.
The gap is so – and by the way, even when, like, a team you can beat, like the Spurs, even when they've got, like Lauri Markkanen is, I think, a great player. And when people say, well, in the perfect world, Lauri Markkanen is like a number 3 option on a championship caliber team, I think that's underselling Lauri Markkanen. I think that Lauri Markkanen –
he might – if that's the case, he's probably the best third option in the league. Like
I think he could be like as good as like a 1B. If you could have like a 1A and a 1B.
I think it's more like I think it's more in the 2, like sort of what you're saying there.
Like,
yeah.
And again, now you're looking at, okay, well, let's talk about the championship teams of late. The second option on some of these championship teams is like, I guess, is Lauri Markkanen as good as Jaylen Brown? Is Lauri Markkanen as good as Jamal Murray? Is Lauri Markkanen as good as Klay Thompson? Is Lauri Markkanen as good as some of these obvious number 2s?
I think there's an argument that he's as good or better than Jaylen Brown, and that guy's the finals MVP. And I think no question he's better than Klay was as a number 2.
So I look at that and I say, all right, you're far away, but the number 1, like the Spurs, even though as a team they're lacking in a lot of ways right now, they've got this freak, this alien, this avatar named Victor Wembanyama that is very clearly the cornerstone piece of whatever their future looks like. And the Utah Jazz don't have that yet. So what people are hoping for is a guy who was also in action last night as Duke took on Kentucky, and the Cooper flag hype is real and it is justified. And as a young player with a lot of growth in front of him, there were moments in that game, and I didn't see the whole game, full disclosure. There were moments in that game where you're just like, oh, now I understand why there are 4 teams or 6 teams in the NBA that are considering tanking for him, considering doing the lag for flag.
Trying to capture the flag.
They're trying to go in the pooper for Cooper.
Dump. Oh, man, I missed the dump button there.
Season in the droop for Coop. How about that?
Hey.
Huh?
Droop. I don't even know. I don't even know
I
what that
haven't heard
word
that
means.
one before.
But tell me, you got to give me a definition of droop.
You don't know the word droop?
I have not heard droop.
You've heard like droop, like a bloodhound has a droopy face. You know?
Okay. Well, okay. Like droopy. Like okay.
It's like sagging.
I got what you're saying.
It's like sagging, like droopy.
Droop is okay. I hear it as droopy. I don't think I've heard it very much without the
look,
not as an adjective.
If droopy is a word,
then
so is droop.
Then droop is. Yes. Okay. I'm with you now.
That's how
droop for Coop.
This English language lesson is brought to you by the Sean O'Connell Show and by Les Schwab Tires. They have the accessories, the wheels, the tires for whatever it is you drive. Take it to your local Les Schwab and let the professionals get the job done right the very first time. But in any case,
you are an author.
Of
course.
Both of my books, the word droop is in there like 600 times.
Wow.
Each. There's too much droop. There's a lot of droop going on in my books.
So maybe not as successful.
Correct. That is also correct.
You're still an author. You can still call yourself that.
So watching Steph Curry and his now kind of like ragtag band of young players against a former teammate in Klay Thompson, who was they were the Splash Brothers, those two, right? Built and were really kind of like the twin pillars of a Warriors mini dynasty. As good as Kevin Durant is, he's never going to be given the same kind of love or credit as those two, and he doesn't deserve it because Kevin Durant is very much the mercenary.
Oh yeah, he flew in, won a couple titles, flew out
after getting beat, right?
Yeah,
you can't beat him, join him. He's like, all right, I'll join him. So we joined him, and honestly,
wait, so you're saying that's an option? You can't beat him, join him.
And right now, you watch around the West in the NBA, and you watch that game, and you see a guy who, even though he's been doing it for 14 years now in Klay Thompson, in Steph Curry, you watch him continuing to find ways and to even do it against it's like Batman fighting Robin and getting the better of it, and you see the competitive streak coming out, and you're just like, man, that you need that guy. And I think, Lauri Markkanen can hopefully be some version of that guy, but then that guy has to be surrounded by the right pieces. And you're so far away in Salt Lake City right now.
You are.
From having that.
And obviously the hope is the young guys like Keontae George, Taylor Hendricks after he gets back from injury next season, Cody Williams. The hope is those guys in particular and Walker Kessler, they round into the kind of supporting cast that can be a championship contender in the next, I don't know how many years, right? Hopefully a few years. And you add a great, no doubt about it, superstar that you're talking about that can be better than just about anybody on the floor in any given night. Maybe that's Cooper Flagg if they win the lottery this year. Maybe it's another direction. Maybe it's one of the other guys in the top 5, the Rutgers guys or the French guard Traore. If you don't win the lottery this year, we'll see. But they're hoping, and those other young guys have shown some flashes, just not a ton of sustained success to say they're definitely going to be on the next Jazz title contending team.
I also take umbrage. I guess I could wait till Friday and air it as a grievance, but with the fact that right now the East has 2 teams with winning records.
Yeah.
And the West, right now, let's see, in the West, the 10th place team is the Sacramento Kings are 6-5. 6-5 is good enough right now for second place in the East. Right now, the 11th place Dallas Mavericks, who we just saw in action last night in the aforementioned contest against the Golden State Warriors, who are somehow, someway, third place in a very good and deep Western Conference. So outside the playoff picture right now, and there's plenty of basketball left to play, I know that. But the Dallas Mavericks at 5-6 would have they'd be tied for the 4th best record in the East right now.
That's terrible.
They're as good as the Knicks.
Remember last year? The East is back. It's not. At least to start this year, it's not back.
The East is the SEC.
Yeah.
The NBA Eastern Conference is the Big Ten, where you've got – it's probably not fair to say about the Big Ten this year because of what Indiana is doing, and Oregon and Ohio State are both very, very good. But Cleveland looks awesome. Boston – a lot of people think, myself included, that they're on their way to a second straight NBA championship, and everyone else is like Maryland, Rutgers, Illinois, Wisconsin.
Trying to make a bowl game.
Like, what are we doing here? How did this happen in the NBA? Is there any way?
Remember the Knicks, and it's only been 10 games, so they might end up being that. But remember the Knicks were supposed to challenge the Celtics, and a lot of people saying they'll beat the Celtics in the playoffs this year? Yeah. 5-5 through 10 games. Looking that way.
Remember when Jalen Brunson took $75 million less than the max so that the roster around him could be bolstered and they could actually win championships?
And then they did bolster it in what looked like a great way. Of course, I feel like the Towns and Julius Randle trade was about as okay, here's our guy we don't like very much. Here's our guy who's pretty good we don't like very much. You want to give us your guy who's pretty good you don't like very much? Like, I don't know if either team got better with that trade. Now, more likely the Knicks get better because Towns has been somewhat more reliable than Julius Randle, but only by a little bit. I don't know.
The rare and elusive lose-lose trade.
Yes, the lose-lose-lose.
You love to see it.
The opposite of the Michael Scott.
You absolutely love to see it. All right. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back with some hot lunch. A new college football playoff is out. A college football playoff ranking, I should say, is out, which means a new college football playoff bracket projection is out. And you will be surprised where some of your favorite teams to hate are sitting. Before we get to the break, though, I want to remind you this time of year is a year where you actually have to pay attention to things like reliable shipping, like reliable photo printing. You're trying to get those Christmas cards done, right? You've already hired the photographer. You've already bought the matching semi-cute outfit, all right? Mom, Dad, you probably dread the idea of getting all kids to smile at the same time. But you're going to get that one precious picture. You're going to get the Happy Holidays printed up. You're going to choose the format and everything. You need a partner that is going to actually get these printed up, make them look great, sent out, shipped out, and reliably delivered and guaranteed. My friends at Postnet have you covered. Customer service is their main priority. Your happiness is paramount to their business model at Postnet. If you're not happy about the way things turn out, with the banner you printed, with the shipping that was done, or with those precious, precious Christmas cards, Postnet is going to make it right. That's what they do. I've got dozens and dozens of stories, some of them unsolicited, from people who've used Postnet and said, I cannot believe how far they will bend over backwards to make me happy. I cannot believe how far out of their way they will go to make sure that I am a satisfied and repeat customer. And that's really what the business is all about. Go visit them in Draper, North Salt Lake, Spanish Fork, or West Valley. Tell them you want to know about virtual mail as well. Postnet.com. Tell them OC sent you. Postnet, dependable solutions, even in this crazy, crazy business world. All right, Hot Lunch next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM, part of the Utah ESPN Radio Network. Something just came to my mind, James Peterson, here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Are we like the Sports Illustrated or the Madden cover curse? We have Cam Rising doing the whole like, hey, this is Cam Rising. Make sure you listen to ESPN 700, Home of the Utes. We have Brant Keithy doing it as well. Are we the reason these guys sustain season-ending injuries? Is this our fault?
I choose not to think that much about that. It's a thought that I've had for sure. Like it feels wrong, and I've been meaning to get some Mekhi Bernard going because of Bernard breakdown, but then I'm terrified that he's been banged up the last couple times after we made that deal. I don't know if we want to do that.
Let's not have him cut one. There's only 3 more games left. Let's not have it. I don't want the bad juju.
It. Yeah.
All right. The Bernard breakdown should be coming your way tomorrow, by the way. Look forward to every conversation we have with Mekhi.
I've enjoyed the first couple with him so far. He's really good with the media.
Yeah, he's great. And he's an unbelievable player. And I don't think there's a full appreciation of how much harder it is to do what he is doing when there's only like 2 offensive weapons on the team.
Yeah.
When it gets spread around, like for Colorado, Travis Hunter having 100-yard games, there's 3 other guys that can hurt you. You know what I mean? For Mekhi Bernard to have had basically one dude who is consistently a threat to help him, and I guess now that the offense has woken up to the fact they have Dorian Singer available as well, it's like 1.5. But it's back to 1 again because it was Keithy for a while, and then Singer starts coming on, and now Keithy's out. So for him to be rushing for 6 yards a carry when everyone knows, like, that's really the only thing you got to stop, it's pretty remarkable.
Yes,
so.
And speaking of Keithy, it wasn't just refreshing to see the offense being able to score like they did in the red zone, in particular against BYU in that first half. It was refreshing to see Keithy be a big part of that.
Well, yeah,
and then all of a sudden he goes down later in the game, unfortunately. But it's too bad he's down because it really looked like not only did the offense wake up at least in the first half against BYU in the Holy War game, it felt like Brant Keithy woke up as a red zone threat in that game too. But we'll see. They got to move on.
Hot Lunch today is brought to you by Jersey Mike's Subs. Every sandwich fresh sliced right in front of you. Cheesesteaks made to order on the grill. So what are you waiting for? Go grab some Jersey Mike's, a sub above. Make sure you get it with the juice.
And Mike's way. Gotta have it Mike's way.
Well, that's Mike's way is with the juice.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Sliced right in front of you.
College football playoff rankings came out yesterday evening. BYU jumped from number 9 to number 6 after the Holy War win.
Hey, OC. We get it.
Don't do that. Indiana has moved up to 5. Miami dropped down to number 9 after sustaining their first loss of the season. And the projected bracket, the brand new upgraded bracket, actually has BYU as a 3 seed.
Yes. I think that's the right seed for them.
Well, here's the thing. Because of the fact, like, Indiana is in such a strange situation, right? The Big Ten, if it continues going the way that it's going right now, the eventual Big Ten champion is going to be the number 1 overall seed. Whether that's Oregon, most likely in my mind, whether that's Indiana, or that's Ohio State, or Penn State is still in the running, which is all insane, right?
3 of the top 4, or 3 of the top 5.
3 of the top
in the
5
rankings from the Big Ten.
Are Big Ten teams right now, and
only one of them is going to get a bye.
Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, or Indiana going to be the number 1 overall seed, right? The number 2 seed is going to be the SEC champion. I mean, basically, that's just how it's going to work out because people's belief in the SEC, the strength of schedule remaining for these SEC teams, Tennessee, Texas, I could see a world in which even a 2-loss SEC champion gets that number 2 overall seed because of how much the committee seems to love the SEC and because the biases that exist.
Yeah,
it's fine.
I think the only way that a 2-loss team doesn't is if, for example, BYU goes undefeated Big 12 champion.
Yeah, I mean,
and Oregon Oregon undefeated Big Ten champion.
I still don't believe that's going to happen for BYU. I don't think BYU is going to finish the regular season undefeated. They're having a magical season. They're a really, really good team. I'm not sure that I mean, this week, Kansas, that is a nightmare trap game after the big-time emotional win against your rival.
They just took down Iowa State.
They're figuring it out right now. Arizona State with
46 points against Iowa State too. Yeah, figuring it out.
Arizona State at night in the desert late in the season. Many, many teams have gone down there and have seen, the best things that they had laid out for themselves ruined. And Cam Scatterbo is back this week, it looks like. So him being available against BYU could be a big problem for the Cougs.
By the way, 7-2 ASU. How are they not cracking the top 25?
Arizona State is technically still eligible to play in the Big 12 championship
They're
game.
They're tied with three other teams, a game behind Colorado for second place.
And they play two of those three teams to finish out the season.
Yeah.
So Arizona State's got they've got Kansas State this week. They've got BYU next week. If they can beat both of those teams, suddenly they're in the driver's seat. It's wild what's happening. Anyway, BYU as a 3 seed is a potential possibility as this most recent college football playoff ranking comes out. And that, to me, is a perfect situation for BYU if they can pull it off. As it all sits right now, your first round game would be against Ole Miss or against Penn State, rather than probably Ohio State.
Yeah, that's the sweet spot. That's the 3 seed is where you probably want to be if you're one of those conference champions. It's that 3 seed because it is going to be a weaker matchup in your first game. The other thing is,
and weaker is such a relative term here.
It really is,
because Ole Miss is nasty.
So good.
They are really good. Penn State is the reason I would want it to be Penn State if I'm BYU is because Penn State finds a way to lose big games.
They do.
And because of that, I don't believe that they will emerge from their first round matchup if they get there.
And as talented as Drew Auer is, the offense is so bland at Penn State. I don't believe in that offense. Even as I've seen them some games put up 30-plus points this year, I still go, I just don't think they're capable of that in a big game.
Can you imagine if BYU gets a playoff game, a playoff quarterfinal game against an Ole Miss team quarterbacked by a Utah kid in Jackson Dart? Wow.
That'd be incredible. That would be so fun. The other thing that you want if you're BYU in order to keep that 3 seed by the time the final playoff rankings come out is you probably want SMU to win the ACC, right? Because you beat them head-to-head, and they're not the brand that Miami and Clemson are that, as we talked about, might entice the committee to put them higher than BYU.
There's a possibility, by the way, if SMU was able to make that happen and to win the ACC without getting any portion, 0% of the revenue share, by the way.
They're playing for free this year.
They're playing for free in the conference this year, which is absolutely bananas. Like, can you imagine they make a college football playoff and the extra money comes into the ACC because of them and they don't get any of it?
They definitely are calling like, hey, give us the playoff share.
Guys, we at least get the playoff money.
You don't.
That's got to be in the contract
We'll
somewhere.
stick to our original agreement as far as the big revenue sharing, but like we're the team that made the playoffs. Like, give us the playoff money.
But there's a very real possibility that in the Power 4 conferences, the champions in this year are all brand new members of their conference.
Yeah.
If SMU can win the ACC, if BYU or Colorado or Arizona State or whoever can win the Big 12, those are newcomers. BYU's obviously been in for a year,
but they're
still newcomers.
Yeah,
right?
Basically any of the ones in the running in the Big 12 besides Kansas State, you should consider a newcomer.
I think.
Sure.
I think Oregon's going to win the Big 10.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah. The only thing I think,
if Texas wins the SEC, you're talking about newcomers.
I think if Ohio State, if Ohio State's able to beat Indiana, they do play head-to-head in a couple weeks, puts them back in the in the spot to be in the Big Ten championship game. I feel pretty good about a rematch there, but other than that, other than that matchup again, I think Oregon wins the Big Ten.
That would be really fun to see if you could get even 3 of the 4 power conferences have newcomer champions.
Yeah.
The only thing I wouldn't like about that is it would vindicate all the folks that drove conference realignment. Say, see, shaking it up was good. We got new champions everywhere. I wouldn't love for those folks to feel better about their decisions, but here we are. All right, that's the Hot Lunch on the Sean O'Connell Show, brought to you by Jersey Mike's, a sub above. We'll start hour number 2 with our good friend Scott Mitchell. He stops by. We know it's going to be Isaac Wilson's show. What does Scott Mitchell do with this offense to set the freshman up for maximum success? We'll find out next on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM, part of the Utah ESPN Radio Network. James, I need you to ready the breaking news sounder. We'll do that not right this second, but we'll ready that after we have our conversation with Scott Mitchell, okay? So just have it on deck for me. Sean O'Connell Show, hour number 2 begins with the legendary Utah quarterback, color analyst on all the Utah football radio broadcasts. Our friend Scott Mitchell joins us. Scott, welcome back. How are you?
I want to hear what the breaking news is. It's like after I'm on the show, I thought I was breaking news.
Well, you are breaking news. I just want to force you to listen even when you're not on the show. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, I always do.
We'll get to it, I promise. By the way, Scott Mitchell brought to you by Larry H. Miller Chevrolet. Get Chevy ready this month with better than employee pricing and Solitude season passes with every new vehicle purchase online at LarryHMillerChevrolet.com. All right, Scott, we know that Brandon Rose provided a bit of a spark, and now Brandon Rose is no longer available for Utah football. Season-ending injury to the guy who only got the one start. So you're back to the drawing board with the freshman Isaac Wilson. First of all, for a team to be dealing with this quarterback roller coaster now as you head to the final stretch of 3 games for the season, I mean, just give me a sense of the mental toll this has got to be taking, not only on the quarterbacks and the quarterbacks' coaches, but on the whole offense.
Oh, man, I'm really devastated to hear the news about Brandon Rose because I really liked what he was doing. I mean, he had his first start in college football in the rivalry game, and he was very, very much up to the moment. And that just tells you a lot about a player and kind of who they are and what they're all about. And he was certainly ready to play college football right now. So it's a devastating thing. Again, to me, you know, I don't want to get discouraged about Isaac Wilson, and he was a true freshman in his time before. Maybe seeing the intensity of the rivalry and seeing Brandon Rose and kind of his demeanor and how he was carrying himself playing, maybe some of that will rub off on Isaac, and you know, because Isaac's getting toward the end of this season where he's no longer a freshman. So hopefully all the observation, the opportunities that Isaac has had will certainly, I hope, will benefit the team. And what Brandon was doing was just giving the team a spark, a hope, you know. And so there's something about kind of how you pace yourself when you play and the decisions you're making and being decisive out on the field makes a huge difference. And hopefully that will carry over to Isaac. But it's hard, Sean, when you go through an emotional week like you do against BYU, win or lose. Like, it's just that atmosphere was absolutely electric. The game went down to the very end, and it's a crushing defeat without any question, and everything that went on. And so that's hard to come back from. Even if you won the game, it would still be hard to come back from. To go to Colorado this week, who's playing well and has some players. To me, this is what I love about football. And what I love is as a player when it just seems, wow, emotionally let down, tough game on the road, who's going to show up? And that really says a lot about the character of his team. You know, Isaac Wilson got sat down for a minute, so you know, where is he going to be? Is he going to show a spark? Because everyone's going to be looking to the quarterback. That's the barometer. If our quarterback shows up, then we got a shot today, and that'll be a lot to tell where this team is. Coach Whittingham's so good about answering in these really, really tough situations. Great coaching staff, but it's going to say a lot about the character of this team. It's been a massively disappointing season. Can they really show up in Boulder on Saturday and perform well after such a tough loss?
Knowing that he's got, you know, roughly 400 snaps under his belt now, and he is still a true freshman, but one with a little bit of experience, and you're going up against a pretty good Colorado team, what's the best way for the offensive coordinator, the play caller, to put Isaac Wilson in a situation set up for his success? Do you limit the playbook, the intermediate throws, the short throws? You get the tight ends more involved? Do you just say, you know what, kid, the training wheels are off. It's time to play. Let's just do this thing. Like how do you how do you set him up for success? Do you have him run more, knowing that he got a little bit banged up already this season? What do you do as you're trying to figure out over these final 3 games what he really has for you in the future?
Well, first of all, there's only 2 quarterbacks that are healthy on the team, so running the quarterback right now might not be the most prudent thing to do. I mean, that gets really scary because you really could run out of players. So you've got to be a little judicious there, I think, just to make it through the season. But I'll go back to what my comment about Brandon Rose, about him playing fast. What plays, what type of offense will allow Isaac Wilson to play fast? The play, you need to call the plays that speed him up and not slow him down. The ones that where it's pretty simple to read and it's like, not overcomplicating it, but giving him stuff that he feels confident with. And he should, and you should, as a coach, have a pretty good idea of where he's comfortable and where he isn't. One of the things Utah did a nice job of is taking a shot at the end zone from about the 20-yard line. I mean, that throw to Brant Keithy was kind of out further, and because of that, you have more space, so you have room to operate. Because that's where Isaac, I think, has kind of gotten in some trouble, is those tight, close windows that he's had to make a lot of decisions. And I think there's a sense from him that he's got to do too much. He's got to try too hard. He gets really discombobulated when, he gets some pressure and he has to move. So you got to find a way to get the ball out quick, call plays that really speed up Isaac, and until he feels really comfortable in the pocket. But teams are going to come after you. I mean, that's what they did with him, and you're going to see more of that when he gets back in the game. And how do you handle that? Maybe you go with more protection, so you don't have to worry about it, and you just got 1 or 2 options at wide receiver. I just called plays that made him feel comfortable and sped him up in his decision making.
Scott Mitchell is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking Utah football as they get ready to take on a Colorado Buffaloes team that still has it all to play for. And you know this, Scott. They've got one of the best quarterbacks in the country. They have a guy who I have called for weeks and weeks the best overall college football player in Travis Hunter, who's on both sides of the ball. And now you got to go find a way to put up some points and to slow down a potent passing attack. Now, Colorado has the worst rushing offense in the Big 12 Conference. They run timely plays where they get a little bit on the ground, but they're really just going to try to dice you up through the air. Kyle Whittingham on the Coaches Show last night said it's actually pretty close to, a Mike Leach air raid type play calling distribution. So your thoughts on trying to stop and maybe slow down Shedeur Sanders and the offense?
Well, I still think it's a mismatch. Having an ability to put pressure on the quarterback, which I think Utah can do, but it all depends on the secondary. Is he getting those easy throws? Are you making him hold the ball a little bit longer? And because they have playmakers on that team, and Utah has been at its best when they've been able to dial up pressure. Press man coverage. That's been the best recipe for their success, and you've got some guys back and healthy, and maybe Connor O'Toole will get to play a little bit more because I think he could really help in those situations. So it's, can you get to the quarterback before he gets rid of the ball? Probably will be the decision of the game, but again, you're going to have to find ways to score on offense. When Isaac has been in, it's been anemic offensively, and so I'm not sure where you manufacture those points. I mentioned it. Maybe you get some turnovers defensively, and maybe you get some other special teams type of play going and get pretty aggressive in giving some guys some shots to generate offense through special teams. That might be the recipe. It's kind of, all hands on deck. Everybody figure out how do we get offense somewhere. And I think Utah has the capability of slowing down Colorado, but certainly not stopping them.
Have you? I mean, you've been around football your whole life. You played at the highest level for a very long time. Were you ever around a guy who is All-America, at least all-conference, but All-America caliber on both sides of the football?
Well, I actually played. I was playing. Well, Dion. I mean, and I was playing for the Miami Dolphins when he had played in I believe it was where the Braves were in Minnesota, and then he flew down like that morning or something. And I believe it was even in a helicopter is how he got to the game to play. He was playing for Atlanta at the time. The Falcons, and just watching him play, because I remember thinking there's not a snowball's chance this guy's going to show up and be worth a darn, because of just the timing of trying to make it to the game, and he did, showed up and played very well, and it's remarkable. I mean, any athlete that can do that is and the one thing about Dion is even throughout his career. He played two sports, but he played a little bit on both sides of the football. I don't know that I've ever really seen that consistently at any level other than when I was in high school, certainly not college and the pros, where a player like Travis Hunter, who's played so much defensively, so much offensively, and doesn't seem to be deterred by it. It's a big afternoon for him to show up on a football field and to really show up. I mean, it's not just he's there. He's extremely productive. Bill Riley brought up a point. We were talking about it last week. He said, this guy should be the Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, for a guy to do what he's done, and clearly the best player in all of college football.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's nobody. Even the great quarterbacks this year are not also great safeties or great linebackers or whatever. The fact that he is, like you said, not just showing up, but he's contributing at an elite level on both sides. And Kyle Whittingham, we talked about this on the coaches show last night. I mean, a guy's playing 120, 130 snaps a game, and it's not like he hasn't been hit. I mean, he's taken some big hits, and he's missed a little bit of time. But just when you're talking about a Utah team that can't keep guys healthy for more than a game, and this dude is out there playing 2 games every Saturday, basically, in terms of rep count, and he's available still. It's wild to see.
There's a couple of interesting things about Saturday's game, and talk about Travis Hunter and his effort. Colorado is going to show up. They got a shot to play in the Big 12 championship game. They've got a shot to go to the college football playoffs. They're outside of it right now by their ranking, but they could certainly get in if they win the conference and the conference championship. And I guarantee you that there's nothing more than Deion Sanders and probably college football would want to have him in the playoffs, because he's such a marquee. So you're going to get the very best of Colorado, but maybe not, because there's a lot of speculation and rumor, and I haven't heard anything today, but potentially Deion going to Florida State, maybe even the Dallas Cowboys, and all of a sudden your name starts floating around for a new job. And are you really dialed into your team right now? Maybe, you kind of have one foot in the door, one foot, on your private airplane. And that does have an impact on coaches. We saw it with Mario Cristobal when Utah played Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game, and he knew he was headed to Miami, and it was a different team that showed up to play in that championship game.
Scott Mitchell for another minute or two here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Utah versus Colorado. That's the matchup this weekend. Early kick. It's going to be a 10 a.m. game for the Utes. You go from nighttime action at Rice-Eccles Stadium to 10 a.m. kick on the road. The time of day, the kickoff time, does it affect either team? Did it affect you when you were playing based on, what time you had to start the game?
Well, it's Saturday brunch, and hopefully we get maybe a little bit of breakfast, a little bit of lunch. Maybe we get that from Utah, a little bit of offense from somewhere, the defense, the offense, the special teams, something like that. Sometimes, the kick can certainly affect you, and you have to, because we're such creatures of habit, and we're so used to things being a certain way, and your body clock and all those things. And there's you don't want to make too much of it, but you need to make enough of it. So you want to figure out how to get your mind right and get your body going. Because the biggest thing with early kicks is guys are like, oh, it's almost halftime and we're playing a football game and we finally wake up, kind of thing. So really important in those early kicks to get yourself going early in the day and just get up to speed of, hey, I'm going to be playing a major college football game here at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Scott, Utah is officially out of Big 12 championship discussion. They're mathematically eliminated from being there. We knew that. With that in mind, though, do you have a horse in the race? Is there a team that you want to see win this Big 12 championship as we round into this final 25% of the regular season?
Well, BYU certainly deserves to be there. I mean, they do. They've done what they've had to do. It's a great lesson for everyone in the conference to recognize that the talent is so evenly spread that you really have a chance. And I like that, in the conference in general. I mean, it's the teams everyone expected to win are at the bottom of the conference, and the teams that weren't are at the top of it. And that's what makes it interesting and exciting. The thing that I think we want to think about if we're Utah is the Big 12 needs to have some relevance. You don't want it to get like where the Pac-12 was, because this is going to evolve and change as it goes forward. So having good representation in the college football playoffs is really important. If you have a BYU that goes undefeated and runs it out, they're probably the only team in the Big 12 that's going to make it. But if they're up high in the rankings, and let's say Colorado comes in and they have one loss in the conference and they end up beating BYU, then maybe you get two teams in the playoffs. There's a strong likelihood of that happening. So better representation might be the better solution. It's for me that's my horse in the race, or whatever's best for the conference moving forward and its perception in the landscape of college football.
Last thing before I let you go, this Utah offense still needs to find a way to elevate itself closer to where the defense is performing. You didn't do it against BYU in the second half. You haven't done it for the last 5 weeks. Part of that is because, I think at least, there's some guys that are talented that haven't really been utilized. Who do you think is the most underutilized player on this offense right now?
Well, I sure would have loved to have seen Brandon Rose respond this week after last week's game, because I think I would have expected even more growth, and that growth would have been a more consistent effort in the second half to score points, because I think they're capable, and certainly, there's certainly room to grow there. I would have liked to see that. And unfortunately, we're not going to. But that being said, Atlantic King was such a big part of what was happening a year ago, so I'm sure that he'll probably be more involved in this offense. You've got this Caleb Lohner. Coach Whittingham has had high marks for him. You haven't really seen him play tight end, and at this point, unless there's something they're trying to preserve, whether it's eligibility or whatever, I don't know what his status is off the top of my head, but. Why not put him in, and why not give him an opportunity as a regular tight end, playing for anything, other than your pride, and let's see what he can do, let's see what he can develop into. I would certainly like to see that.
Well, we'll see how it plays out. It will be that early kick against the University of Colorado. Pre-game coverage right here on ESPN 700 is going to start at 6 a.m., and then Scott Mitchell and Bill Riley and Stevenson Sylvester will take over bright and early at 8 a.m. Scott, it's always great hearing from you. Great insight. Appreciate you.
You got it, buddy. We'll talk to you later. I gotta go take a nap just so I can get ready for this early kickoff this weekend.
Great stuff from Scott Mitchell. Give me that breaking news sounder, if you don't mind, James Peterson, behind the glass in the producers. All right, this is awesome. Lynn Roberts and the University of Utah women's basketball team have secured the commitment and signed a 5-star guard. A 5-star coming to play hoops. Her name is Leona, better known as La Sneed. Or maybe it's L.A. Sneed? I think it might be L.A. Sneed. In any case, this young woman is a 5-star commit to Utah women's basketball, the number 26 player overall in the class of 2025, 100% committed to Utah from San Antonio, Texas. I love this.
I love it too, because there was some concern for people after Alyssa Peely left. Could they continue this run that they were on with Alyssa Peely? And this will ensure. I mean, Gianna Neepkins is back this year, and they've had a great start. This will ensure that they have every bit of a chance to continue this run of success that they started when Alyssa Peely was here. So that's fantastic.
Congrats to Lynn Roberts and everyone up there doing the hard work. They also got a 4-star to commit today as well. So, adding some talent, Utah women's hoops getting after it here in mid-November. 5-star guard who is just coming off a performance at the Under Armour Elite Camp. And let's see, how many 5-stars are there in the class of 2025? There are 17 other 5-star recruits. So one of 18 5-stars, and Utah women's basketball got them.
It's amazing. And we have this discussion from time to time on this show, OC. What's harder, getting there the first time or sustaining that success, that championship contention level of success? And they did the first thing. They got there, as I mentioned, with Alyssa Peely being a big part of that, who's now in the WNBA. And now this, again, gives them a chance to continue that, to sustain that championship contention level of success in Power 4 basketball.
Avery Helmstead, by the way, is the 4-star sniper, a big-time three-point shooter from the state of Oklahoma.
Surprise, surprise, adding another great three-point shooter. This team, I mean, that's the way Lynn likes to play it, so that's awesome to get those two players, especially another sharpshooter.
Love to see it. A 4-star and a 5-star on the same day for Lynn Roberts and Utah women's basketball. Scott Mitchell, that was the breaking news that we were saving for after our conversation.
Yeah, Scott, he probably was like, "Hey, I could break down women's hoops too."
He actually, he loves women's hoops.
Yeah, he's like, "Come on, yeah, you could have had me on for that."
That's your Big 12 at noon update, brought to you by Mountainland Supply. Visit them at mountainlandsupply.com. Up next, we go behind the glass with our friend Julie Stewart-Binks. Utah Hockey Club back in action tonight against a really solid Carolina team. We'll discuss in 3 minutes on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM, part of the Utah ESPN Radio Network. We go behind the glass for a little hockey discussion here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Our resident NHL insider, my good friend Julie Stewart-Binks, joins us. JSB, how are you?
I am great, thanks, Sean. I appreciate you having me on. Love talking a little Utah hockey.
Yeah, looking forward to that discussion. But before we get to it, can I enlighten people as to the big news in your life? Is that okay with you?
Yes, I think they would be very happy about it.
So, Julie Stewart-Binks, proud Canadian, and of course, as a hockey insider, you have to at least have some Canadian in you. But now, dual citizen, passed her citizenship test for the United States of America. So, congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's a huge honor. I'm very proud to now also be an American citizen. So, and to hold both, I do still have my Canadian citizenship. People keep asking me like, oh, do you have to give in your Canadian passport? Which, no, that's not kind of how it works. But it was a very fascinating process. And as someone who didn't pass their driver's test the first time, I was nervous in that test because, you just never know. But I did. I studied quite a bit, and I know my U.S. history and politics from that test very well, but just from that test.
I'm going to actually surprise my producer, James Peterson, with some questions from the citizenship test to see if he would qualify had he not been born here. We're just gonna mess around a little bit.
You should. Most people actually, they should just even take a gander at it to see. It's all stuff I think Americans would have learned long ago, but you might not remember it, or maybe you never learned it, or it's just good to have a refresher, I'd say, because it's also fascinating too. Or you can also just watch Hamilton. That helps as well.
Okay, so when you're a dual citizen, do you have two passports, or do they have is there like a special passport that's like a half and half?
Yeah, it's like it's a half and half. It's sort of like a jersey that I guess like Travis Kelce's mom would wear when Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce played each other in the Super Bowl. No, it's yeah. You have to apparently. I haven't taken my oath of allegiance yet. That's a big ceremony they'll do here in New York, and then you give in your green card, and then you wait for your American passport to come. So you're kind of in this weird period where you actually can't leave the country because you can't get back in. So I will be here for as long as that will take, which hopefully, it's not too long. But I get to keep both. And then, of course, it will be fascinating. The Four Nations tournament happens, hockey, which is Canada, USA, Finland, Sweden in January, February, because, of course, who am I going to be rooting for? I mean, this is a big decision for me.
I mean, you're big on Olympics coverage as well, and there's ultimately going to be a time, Julie, where you have to decide, where you're just like, all right, who am I rooting for here? It's Canada hockey, U.S. hockey. Man, it's going to be rough.
I think it will be Canada when they're not facing USA and USA when they're not facing Canada. But when they're together, I won't discuss what I will.
You have to wear gray and you have to remain silent. You have to be totally neutral.
Yes. And to be honest, I shouldn't be rooting for anyone anyway as a capital J journalist, but we know that doesn't really sports has infiltrated everyone. That's why we're in this business anyway, because we were fans of it growing up. So, I think it's just it's great to just be involved in a part of something. And so I will say one thing. One of the last questions that I was asked in this test was, when you become a citizen of the United States, what is one promise that you make? And I know the answer to that. It's that you become loyal to only the United States. And I said it with as if I was running onto the football field, and the guy high-fived me. So I knew I passed then.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, so everyone, I don't know, send Julie guns and ammo as welcoming presents for being a U.S. citizen. All right. Actually, don't, because she lives in New York, and that would be really bad for her.
It might complicate things for me. I might not be taking the full oath then at that point.
All right. Well, we'll put that aside for now. Let's talk some hockey. This Utah Hockey Club has been really interesting all year, as one would expect from a franchise in this stage of development. They've been up and they've been down. I haven't really always understood why they look so up against some teams and down against others. Like Nashville beating them 4-0 is something I can't really understand because Nashville has had its struggles, even though I thought they were going to be really good this year because they made some big offseason acquisitions. So when you see a team like this Utah Hockey Club, what I will call underperform against another team that really has no business smashing them, what does it tell you about UHC?
The biggest thing I see is that there is a lack of consistency with Utah, and that's evident, as we know, the fact that they've had the injuries, they're thin on defense, they're thin down the middle, and they're doing a lot of, line rotation. All that kind of stuff has to happen when also things aren't necessarily going your way, or you're not having, you're getting shut out by, the Winnipeg Jets. That's not a surprise. They're the best team in the history of the universe right now. But against Nashville, it is a bit surprising because in a way it's like you're just trying to find your identity because this team did go for a long time with losing being okay. And I say that in a way just because of they were kind of like this a dog in a shelter that wasn't getting a whole lot of love in Arizona, and you kind of that was the status quo for them. And so now you're getting the opportunities and you're getting the fan exposure, everything's kind of coming into place, but you're not necessarily there yet. And I think that that's something that Utah fans will have to sort of look at, the fact that they have to be patient with figuring out how this is going to come together. And the fact that losing Jersey, losing Marino on the back end in defense, you lose your top two defensemen pretty much right out of the gate, really does suck. And then when you have your top line with a Nick Bjugstad there, he's not necessarily a top line guy. He might be a third line guy club. So while you can look at these other teams and Nashville's not very good or so-and-so's not very good, it's we got to figure out clean up our own house at first. We got to figure out who we are, what our structure is, how do we play. Everyone's essentially their assignments. And you look at, we talked about Sergachev a couple weeks ago and how many minutes he was logging. Nice that Olimata is there, but Olimata is also still a guy that has a lot of miles on him as well. So I think that you're going to need to add at some point. They have a lot of assets. They're in a position that they're in a really good position to be able to build. But as I heard Bill Armstrong discussing, you don't want to be this team that tries to build and retool so quickly just to kind of appease the fans. You're coming out of the gate, you don't want to suck instantly, but then you don't want to salvage your long-term future. So really, this is just you got to play the long game right now. And in playing the long game, you're going to have these moments and these games where you're this doesn't make any sense. Why would they lose to this team and win to this team? And to be fair, just on another note, that happens also with really good teams. Even the New York Rangers or the Leafs or these teams that will win against bad teams and then lose against good teams. It's still all part of figuring out that identity with these guys and thinking about how so many of these guys they uprooted their lives to go live in Utah. Everything's new to them. So the fact that they're actually even had that good start and kind of I don't want to say that good start has sort of propelled them to a certain point. I think that they will be able to do better and kind of get out of this sort of this roller coaster right now, but we have to sort of keep in mind that there's so many intangibles that go alongside them playing at this level.
I probably ask you too many Sergachev questions, but they've decided, at least against Carolina, to pair him with Olimata. So you've got your two most experienced defensemen skating together. It seems counterintuitive to me. I don't know hockey like you do, but why not pair one of these experienced guys with a Maverick Lamoureux who just got called up? But they're going with the two veterans skating together. Do you like that?
Yeah, I do like that. I think that I mean, if you're going to put if Maverick Lamoureux is your next sort of decision of who would be up there, Sergachev, 100% Mata, because you want to have your best guys up there. They're going to, as we've mentioned, they're going to log the most ice time. They're going to be out there. They're the experienced ones. They're going to be able to settle this team. If you maybe have, like, my viewpoint would be if you have one experienced defenseman out there and then one that's not, it's not like the experienced defenseman sort of is able to, I don't know, give their powers to the lesser experienced one and sort of like, hey, it's okay, young gun. Like, we've got this together. We've got this. It's like, no, they can easily make a blunder on their own that could lead to, a turnover that leads to a goal, or they pinch in the wrong position, or different things like that. So I think that, like, if you have two very good defensemen in that position, you go out there and you kind of like use those moments where you have them out there. You're trying this top line that, I guess, it still has, a lot of experience and is very good. And I think that you kind of are trying to see, that they're stable. So I think of it as almost like math. I think of it as math, Sean, okay, and science. So, like, these are our stable sort of components, are these defensemen, and we're going to try and see with our offense, like, what we need to change, our controlled variables are Sergachev and Olimata, and our variables that we're testing. I love that people are listening to this right now, or maybe they're not.
Okay, so no. Don't worry, nobody's listening.
Are you still here? Are you
this is just
me?
Nobody's listening. It's just me and you talking, but I'm learning.
Yeah, I would say, like, then if you're trying to figure out your line combinations, like, that's where I would be looking to sort of that's where I would be trying to spice things up and sort of keep things locked down as simple as possible in the back end.
So the scientific method is coming into play as they put together these starting lineups.
That's what it's called.
All right, I like it. Julie Stewart-Binks is my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking Utah Hockey Club. Does a goaltender have any contribution, any effect, whether it's communication or it's that initial, movement of the puck after a save or whatever? Is there any ability for a goaltender to influence offense in front of him? Because there's this weird situation right now where Vejmelka, who's getting the start tonight, has no goal support. Like, it doesn't matter how he plays because the offense isn't going to score when he's in goal. At least that's how it's been so far in a limited sample size.
I think 100%. The goaltender has such a huge impact on what goes on in front of them, especially the relationship with the defenseman, but then also how the rest of the team plays in front of him. Like, sometimes we can see this with, like, maybe a bigger name goes out, or a whole team has to step up. I'm looking at Toronto Maple Leafs with Austin Matthews out. Didn't work last night against Ottawa, but in other times, the whole team feels like a necessary extra push to kind of have to be better. I think when this is as a whole, not necessarily in terms of, like, the guys right in front of a goaltender, but I think that they have an influence. If you also aren't necessarily sure how they handle the puck, are they kind of like an east to west goalie? Like, are they going to be coming out of their crease a lot? Like, it's just kind of the different tendencies. Do they play the puck a lot? You're kind of figuring that all out with the dynamic. I think that as the team is growing, it is part of that of hey, do we know sort of some of these tendencies? If we don't, or if we do, it might actually help us and elevate us to play at a better level. That would be sort of like my biggest takeaway, especially like when I watch Igor Shesterkin for the Rangers. He's the flex seal guy. He's so good that sometimes it overshadows how the defensive issues that the Rangers have. And because they kind of, like, the whole team knows that Igor's most likely going to stop pretty much everything unless it's an incredible shot from Kyle Connor that we saw last night. Or even on the other end, even with Jonathan Quick, like, sometimes the guys play better in front of him because he is the backup, but he has won 2 Stanley Cups and he has been playing really well. So teams, it's fascinating, like the team psychology of how they play in front of different goaltenders and how comfortable they feel with a guy coming out to play the puck. Because we have seen these crazy highlight blunders where, a goalie will come out, play the puck, and then they'll just get sniped by a really aggressive forecheck, which is what Utah will be seeing against Carolina. So this is also something you want to be very wary of against this team. They are coming off a back-to-back, or they are on a back-to-back, so you hope that for your team's sake, that helps you in a way, especially coming into Utah, but they are relentless. They are, I'm thinking about you guys.
Well, yeah, that was going to be my final question before we let you go. This is a good Carolina team, atop their own division right now. I think second in the NHL in goal differential. So what's the key to pulling off an upset against a squad like this?
It's, oh my gosh, having watched them so much over the years in the playoffs, like they have this, you're going to hear it on the broadcast all night, relentless forecheck. They just come in waves, they smother you, they make it really boring. They're going to pin these guys into their own zone, make it impossible for them to break out, make it impossible for them to do anything with the puck. So it's going to be like for Utah having to play simple, you don't want to be trying to do anything too fancy around them. Like you kind of just want to dump and chase at this point because you just need to get it out. They are very, very highly skilled at just not letting you, like, think of it as just suffocating you. Like, so these guys have to be very, very careful with the puck management. We know that. And with the defensive connections, I would say too, because if you have any kind of any sort of pass that leads to a turnover, that's like an instant odd man rush. That can be an instant goal. We know that they're also very lethal with the shooting, which they're very good at being able to get pucks on net. They are like they are the hunter, like they are the predator, and they are showing it. And it's been coming to fruition every single year. They just like, there'll be one thing here or there that they haven't been able to kind of get over at one point in the playoffs, but like they are prime to be a Stanley Cup contender.
Puck drops at 7 p.m. at the Delta Center. Utah Hockey Club taking on a very good Carolina squad. Julie Stewart-Binks will be watching. I will be there in person. JSB, my fellow American, thank you for joining me today.
Well, I appreciate that. And based on all of the scientific method that I mentioned, I think Utah has this one in the bag because nothing makes sense in hockey, and they'll probably win.
They'll probably win 4-0. And then next week I'll be like, hey, how did that happen? It's perfect. Thanks, JSB.
We'll go into more math. Okay, thanks, guys. Take care. Bye.
Julie Stewart-Binks, NHL insider. This time of year, you need to be paying attention to the energy costs of your home. One of the things that might be causing those things to skyrocket would be bad windows. If your windows aren't sealing properly, maybe they're just old, maybe they're single-paned, they don't have all that new technology and the argon gas between the panes of glass that make your windows so energy efficient. The number one replacement window company in America, and certainly in Utah, Advanced Window Products. They're running the biggest discounts of the year right now. Get on the schedule, 801-850-9100. Tell them OC sent you. Tell them ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM sent you. They're going to take extra good care of you. You don't even have to get the windows today. You just have to get on the schedule to take advantage of the discounts, and then you can get the windows put in the spring. And don't forget, if you're worried about the window coverings, the plantation shutters, the blinds, they've also got that covered, and they've got it all covered right here in the Valley, right here in Salt Lake City. Sales team, manufacturing, installation, warranty coverage. It's all done right here, like 5 minutes south of our Broadway studios. Give them a call. Nate Orchard, Jake Weber, tell them OC sent you. AdvancedWindowProducts.com or 801-850-9100. All right, it just means more in the NBA Cup. It means so much that even one of the best coaches in the league can get flustered and make a game-changing decision. We'll talk about that next on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's ESPN 700.
They'll clear out. Doncic will defend Curry. A screen by Green. The switch to Lively. 3. Curry. Oh!
Big thanks to TNT Sports for that sound. Steph Curry hits a 3. Warriors win 120-117 over the Mavs, who, of course, now have Klay Thompson. Kevin Harlan on the call there. Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 792.1 FM. Zachariah, our guy, going to join us in just a few minutes.
OC getting shout-outs from Dan Patrick.
How about that?
Isn't that awesome?
I knew he was a big fan. I'm glad he finally voiced that publicly. That's really, really nice of him to finally come out of the big fandom closet for us.
That's going to run pretty often, letting people know you can hear OC right after him.
We'll talk about
ESPN
this
700.
with Zachariah. We've been very, tongue-in-cheek, facetious about the whole, it just means more in this NBA Cup or whatever. Last night's game, though, if you didn't get a chance to watch it, at least do yourself a favor and grab the highlights of Steph Curry going at his former Splash brother and teammate. And, I've been complaining for years how everyone in the NBA is, good friends now, and they don't go at each other's necks the way that Michael Jordan and Patrick Ewing and Clyde Drexler and all those guys used to do. That happened last night. Two dudes who are real friends in real life and had the best years of their career together. Steph Curry was establishing dominance. It was awesome to watch. We'll save the major coaching blunder from the NBA Cup for when Zachariah comes on, because maybe he has a good explanation as to why it happened, but goodness gracious. It just means more, and it gets these people flustered, James.
It does. It does. Well, honestly, there are certain matchups that no matter when you play them, they're going to be awesome. So good on the NBA for making this one an NBA Cup game, so that because they're really trying hard to make this thing something that people should care about. And so when you're scheduling these revenge games, quote unquote revenge games, that's a great way to do it.
I don't mind the courts that look like street ball courts. I'm fine with that. Other people hate them.
There's a certain few that objectively still look good. That most of the others that for me hate them.
All right. We'll see what Zachariah thinks. He joins us in 3 minutes. Sean O'Connell Show continues on a Wednesday. ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM, part of the Utah ESPN Radio Network.
Hey, man. Not much. How are you? Yeah, man. That good game. Too bad Utah couldn't score in the second. I know, right? Wild. Definitely. About 2 minutes out.
Welcome to hour number 3 on a Wednesday. As you know, on this show, that is the Zachariah Hour. My good buddy Zachariah joins us for a full hour, and we talk all things in the sports world. We got some breaking news, actually, that we can share to start off the Zachariah Hour after I properly welcome him in. Zachariah, what's up?
Hello, my good friend. I was going to air some grievances, but I don't want to get in the way of breaking news ever. I mean, nothing that I have to say or complain about or talk about is more important than breaking news. So what do you got for me? I heard the women's Utes getting a 5-star recruit. I heard that breaking news. You got more now, OC.
Yeah, this one not nearly so positive. Not one that's fun to talk about, but it is breaking news. Breaking news, Utah running back Jalen Glover has left the team and will be entering the transfer portal with 3 games remaining in the 2024 football season.
Oh, man.
The good news is in his tweet, and this is from his official Twitter account, he wished himself Godspeed.
We got to get it.
Jalen.
How do you wish yourself Godspeed?
Jalen, that's for other people to say to you.
That's like, was it Quinnen Williams, his rookie year, sneezed and said, bless you and thank you, all in the same breath?
Look, you got to be careful with how you talk about college students. They're not pro athletes.
Yeah.
They kind of are pro athletes.
They're still students. They're still learning, too.
They kind of are pro athletes, though. And this is a pro athlete decision. And I'm not gonna get mad about it. All right. Jalen Glover is leaving because if he leaves right now, he can still redshirt this year. At least that is the thought process that he lays out in his announcement, which has a very fancy Instagram graphic or whatever. I want to say thank you to the University of Utah for welcoming me to my new home with open arms since my arrival. I've met and built so many lasting relationships with staff, teammates, and fans. With a heavy heart, my family and I have made a decision that we pray will benefit my future. With that being said, I will be foregoing the remainder of the season and redshirting to sustain my eligibility. I will be entering my name in the transfer portal on December 9th. With 2 years of eligibility remaining, forever a Utah man, am I. Uno out. All right, 2 things. I wish Jalen Glover the best. I really do. this season has been very difficult for players on the team more than fans, more than coaches. It's difficult for players to be the ones losing. The coaches are still cashing their big fat checks. Some players are, most players aren't. And you dedicate so much of your time in your life to being a college athlete that it truly hurts you to be losing the way that they are losing. Jalen Glover has not found a way to be featured in the offense this year. And there are a bunch of people in the comments and the fans saying, wishing him well, and that's the right thing to do. There's also a bunch of people using their well wishes to also attack the coaching staff, saying they wasted your talent. They didn't treat you fairly. You don't have any idea what's been going on behind the scenes with Jalen Glover and the coaching staff, all right? If you're out there as a Utah fan thinking that Quinton Ganther was for some reason suppressing the abilities of Jalen Glover in a season where they are desperate for offensive weapons, you don't understand how college football works. Now, I truly do wish any young man, any young player, the best in their future endeavors, but let's not pretend that this Utah coaching staff had some vendetta against Jalen Glover, and that's why he was underutilized this year, all right? I'm just going to put that out there. I'm going to leave that out there. Zachariah, your thoughts on a man leaving with 3 games left to go in the season?
I'm okay with it, specifically based on how much he was a part of the team and the fact that he laid out why he's doing it to have more eligibility. Look, this is what happens when there's not a lot of success. The guys are going to leave. It wasn't, it'd be one thing if, Isaac Wilson was leaving 3 games, with 3 games to go or whatever. I mean, to me, this is not huge news, but I think it's also definitely just, this is the type of stuff that you deal with when you have a down season.
Yeah, now in the transfer portal era, you certainly do. The subtext also here is like, I really understand if you're having a year as a team like Utah's having, and you're a player who's only participated in 4 games saying, you know what, let's just redshirt. I don't want to waste this year of eligibility. I played as a true freshman, so let this just be my redshirt year. The coaching staff is going to get on board with that if you're all on the same page. This coaching staff, I firmly believe, would say, you know what, you're right. You're a talented player. You're a good player. Let's do that. Let's make sure that we preserve your eligibility. This season is a wash. It's a lost endeavor for all of us. I'd rather have you for 2 more good years. But it's not just that decision. Shutting it down to preserve eligibility is something you can do in collaboration with your coaching staff very easily. We have seen this done at the pro level, and obviously we've seen this done at the collegiate level several times, especially when guys get a little bit banged up. Jalen Glover is preserving the eligibility for Jalen Glover. And that's fine because, like you said, this is what happens when you're having a bad season. The grass looks real green on the other side of the fence, and honestly, maybe it is. The future is relatively uncertain with Utah football right now. We don't know if Kyle Whittingham's going to keep coming back. We don't know if Morgan Scalley's going to take over this year. We don't know who the long-term offensive coordinator is going to be. We don't know if that guy's going to like Jalen Glover, if he's even going to run an offense that utilizes Jalen Glover's skill set, although running backs are pretty universal. But I think it's worth being said that this is about Jalen Glover also wanting to separate himself from Utah football. And like you said, Zachariah, that is one of the side effects of having a disappointing season.
Yeah, I mean, he did say that forever a Utah man am I. I mean, I don't think that I don't know. To me, is this big news to you? Like, do you think this is going to affect Utah at all in terms of recruiting or how they're viewed nationwide or whatever? I mean, to me, this is not a nothing deal. Definitely worth, telling the people about and good to know, but I don't see it as some colossal event that takes place with Utah athletics.
Well, no, I mean, no one player is that mega significant, really, especially in a bad season. But it is less than ideal, obviously, for Utah, and it's less than ideal because of the timing. Right now is when everyone else is being talked to and saying, hey, we really got to circle the wagons here. We really like we're only playing for us now. Now it's only about you and your team. It's only about the chemistry you have with your brothers inside that locker room. It's not about anything else.
Yeah.
Everything else is done and gone, and like all the goals you had have just slipped through your fingers like sand through the hourglass. I mean, it is just a sad season. And the one thing you have remaining is you can try to rally together and build some chemistry that way and to overcome the adversity together. And unfortunately, this is the second guy in a week that has said, you know what, I'm going to do other things. And you know what? Like I tell the fans, you don't know everything that's going on with Jalen Glover. Maybe Jalen Glover was encouraged to do this the way that I think another player who left last week and then released a social media video yesterday, Micah Pittman, if you didn't see it, explained why he left and wanted to control the narrative and said, you know, I've been sacrificing my body too much, and my dad and myself and everyone who consulted with me said, you know what, it's not worth it anymore. So he got out there, he put out his video to try to control the narrative. And these guys know the real story. I don't know the real story. I only know what I've heard. And you know what? Maybe this is the best for everyone, that it's another parting of ways. But like you said, it's not nothing. It's also not huge. It's a backup running back, but not the kind of backup running back you don't care about. This is the kind of backup running back that Mekhi Bernard, I think, benefits from having, you know, a few like 6-7 reps a game, that he doesn't have to be your whole offense. And Jalen Glover could carry some of that load.
Yeah, I mean, averaging 5 a carry, and again, you don't want to see anybody go. And I trying to give credence to what you're saying about that. It just kind of affects the overall morale. It's like, oh, okay, people are just like getting the hell out of here, and that could be a little disconcerting. But again, I know you said there's not one player that if they left that it would be that jarring, but I think that there are a lot more players on the team where it'd be much more disconcerting if they left.
Yes, and you brought up Isaac Wilson as an example, and that would be, I mean, that would be DEFCON red, DEFCON.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There are some players where if they left, it would have a huge effect. I don't think this one is that big of a deal. Good old Jalen Glover just saying, you know, say la vie to himself. I mean, you know, Godspeed, all that good stuff. I mean, whatever. Hopefully it works out for everybody. But he wasn't such an intricate part of the team that I think it'll really bring any. I don't think it'll make any difference on how the rest of the season goes. Should
we say Godspeed every time we wrap up the show now? OC?
Yes,
Godspeed.
Well, no, that would make sense, James. That makes sense because people think I'm talking to them.
That's a good point.
If like
maybe Zachariah, when every time you end Zachariah hour, Godspeed to me.
Yes.
Yeah. What's funny, James, is I actually use Godspeed a lot, especially like if I'm fighting with somebody, if I'm in an argument with somebody and they're just doing something or whatever, and we're getting off the phone, not in a good place. I'll just say Godspeed. So I almost kind of do it sarcastically, but I have never once in my life, James, I don't go third person a lot either, but I've never said Godspeed to myself. Although maybe I should. Maybe we should all be saying Godspeed to ourselves.
Let's make it part of the brand. Let's go.
This could be a new thing. I'm going to start Godspeeding myself like Jalen Glover did. That could be his ultimate contribution to the Sean O'Connell show. He teaches
OC every interview when you got Scott Mitchell on, when you're going behind the glass. Every time you end that thing, you just go, "Thank you so much for joining me. Godspeed."
But then it
sounds
still
like
doesn't work.
You're right.
It sounds like I'm saying it to them.
We gotta make it obvious that it's saying it to ourselves.
When you're
somehow.
saying it verbally, the only way that you can clarify that you're saying it to yourself is you have to say Godspeed to me. And that just sounds weird, man. So what a flex. Anyway, that's your breaking news. Jalen Glover has left the program.
Are we sure he's not Godspeeding the Utah football program?
Maybe
that's what he's doing.
Maybe he was.
Godspeed.
Because he quote tweeted it. So I think he was saying it to himself. He quote tweeted the thing about himself. So it was definitely a Godspeed to himself.
Oh, that's amazing. Jalen, thank you for that as a wonderful parting gift from Jalen Glover.
More things that maybe he's not necessarily a big-time college football player, but he's a lot bigger time than any of us, right?
Yes, yeah.
Well, more things that only a big-time player can do, right?
Okay, so
Godspeeding yourself.
So this is something that we're going to have to pay very close attention to, And I didn't want this conversation to start until the season ended. But we're going to have to pay very close attention to with Utah football in 2024, because to me it feels inevitable that there's going to be some kind of flood, some kind of diaspora into the transfer portal. There's going to be some attrition. This is going to be like Utah has been pretty lucky so far with not losing a ton of guys in the transfer portal era, especially not meaningful guys. Now, there have been some. Jaquindon Jackson comes to mind. Coley went to Texas A&M, FIU. He was like a starting caliber offensive lineman. There's some, certainly. But in the transfer portal era and even before, when guys like me transferred out of the program, you've never really seen someone go and then wherever they land, oh my gosh, look what an incredible career that guy had somewhere else. I cannot think of a good example, and 877-353-0700 if you can tell me like an example of a player who has left Utah football and landed on greener grass and ended up somewhere where he's had an incredible career. Jaquindon Jackson was on his way to a great season at Arkansas before the injuries started to pile up. So I'm putting him out there. He's disqualified from all of you who want to use him as your answer. But, Zachariah, we're going to have to pay very close attention to this with guys like Jalen Glover, wherever he lands. And I don't have any idea where he's interested in. I don't know who would be interested in him. But wherever he lands, does it end up better for him than at Utah? These are things I'm going to be paying close attention to. When they lost Jack Tuttle, who was one of the big-time quarterback recruits, and, you know, the deep-cut followers of the program are going to be like, you got him instead of Zach Wilson when you could have had Zach Wilson.
Highest-rated quarterback recruit in program history at the time, though.
That's right, Jack Tuttle. And Jack Tuttle's career, he medically retired this year at his third school. He didn't have a great career, so I'm keeping an eye on all this, Zachariah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's your job at working at the home of the Utes. Of course, you're going to be following all this stuff. And of course, look, for me, there's so many times where a recruit could be a 3-star and turn into a superstar, or a 5-star and turn out to be nothing. Now, obviously, probably the percentages pan out to where the higher the star, you know, fractions of concern, asterisks of concern, or whatever, it's a 3.5 or a 4.5 or whatever, probably more likely to end up being a great player. But, yeah, I mean, this type of thing, I don't think a recruit that's deciding between Utah and whatever other school is going to look at this departure and go, oh, maybe I shouldn't go there. I don't think it's, you know, again, if it was a more prestigious player on the roster, I would be more concerned. But my fractions of concern on this, what we do, James, was it out of 5? Anyways, my fraction of concern on this is like a half or a 1.
Fair. That's your breaking news. Jalen Glover has left the program. All right, I wanted to bring you on. I wanted to talk about something that caught my attention last night in the sports world. Klay Thompson and Steph Curry going at it against one another for the first time since the Splash Brothers split up. And Steph Curry had the game face on, the killer instinct. They were shimmying and shaking in each other's faces. Steph was staring down his former Splash Brother. I love this because clearly in real life they're friends and they're guys who built an incredible legacy and incredible rapport and built and won championships together. But both of them really wanted to win this game, and I love that because, you know, like you and I competing against one another, we're close friends. You and I competing against one another. I'm so much better at everything, it wouldn't look like this, but this one was really cool.
Okay. First of all, you're not touching me in hoop. Second of all, we're supposed to start the show with what I want to get off my chest, and then you hit me with the Glover news, which, by the way, anybody that works for a gym or owns a gym that's listening, come sponsor this hour, the Zachariah Hour, so I can get stuff on my chest.
Okay.
I wanted to go. Okay.
Go for it.
I wanted to go.
You can
ignore
my very clever insult, and you can go the direction you want to go.
Well, I'll smoke you in hoop. Probably everything else, yes. Oh, no, you said you stink at golf, so I beat you in golf even though I'm bad at golf. So golf and hoop, yes. Everything else, you probably would beat me in. Anyways, I was going to go Mark Harlan on you and say that you stole.
Oh, no.
That game was absolutely stolen from me. You told me I was going to be down there for the Holy War. It looked amazing, looked incredible. The game was close, and I feel that my presence, I don't know how superstitious you are, I think if I was there, the Utes win the Holy War. So anyways, that's number one. Then there's Deebo Samuel choking a guy out on the sideline. We can get to that too. But I will answer your question. Clay and Steph, it was incredible. I think anybody watching that, you don't have to be from the Bay Area. You don't have to be a Warrior fan. You don't even have to really be a basketball fan. You could just tell. I was watching all the pregame stuff, and they wanted to do like a 10-minute video tribute to him, and the NBA was like literally like, no, you get like 60 seconds. You're not doing like 15 minutes of a video tribute. Did you see the employees that were lined up? Hundreds of them. His entire walk from entering the building to when he got to the locker room, there was employees clapping and tipping their sailor caps. They gave out the sailor caps because Clay famously took his boat to the practice facility when he was with the Warriors. So that was a tribute to that. And then he played great. I don't know how much he even has left in the tank, but he clearly elevated his game, which is always something that's annoying to me. OC, I don't know if we've had this conversation. I don't know why you would not always play your best at all times, but he clearly played better than he would have if it was a road game against the Atlanta Hawks or something. And then Steph Curry just said, sorry, bud.
Steph Curry said, you are Splash Brother number 2. You are Luigi. I am Mario.
I was just gonna say that we are Splash Brothers, but there's levels to this brothership. I am better than you. So yeah, you can have a great game. You can make it look like you're almost gonna win the game, but guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna break your heart, and then I'm gonna go full Ultimate Warrior and stare. I have never seen that. OC, I've been watching basketball for 35 years. I have never seen a guy stare directly in the camera and lose his mind. And then he said post game, he doesn't even know what he said. There's probably some mouth readers out there that can figure it out, but he doesn't even know what he said. He went full Ultimate Warrior. It was amazing. It was incredible.
What did he say? I don't know what I said, but I will back it up because I always back up what I say. So there could be an awkward situation for Steph Curry. He went fully like unconscious and just started spouting weird stuff off, and now he's gonna have to defend those from the lip readers. But
I like that though. I don't know what I said, but I'll back it up. That's pretty bold.
I'll stand on my business. Look. The NBA this time of year, it's not the most compelling product on television. NFL football is far more interesting. Obviously, college football is far more interesting right now. But games like that, this early in a regular season, I'm drinking the NBA Cup Kool-Aid, at least for that one.
Oh, thank you. I am shocked because I would think that you would be, and I know we got to go to break, so I'll try to make this quick. I would have guessed that you were anti the play-in tournament. I've been the one defending it to pretty much everybody. I would say that 90% of the population thinks it's a complete joke. I love all of it. I love the fact that they make money, and there's players saying like, look, for guys that are making $30 million a year, it might not mean that much but for the 12th guy on the bench, this does actually mean a lot. We're trying to win it for them. I also love the courts. I love everything about the play-in tournament, but I'm shocked that you like it, OC, because most people do not.
Here's what I think you should do with any new idea like this, all right? You introduce it as an idea, as a concept you want to try out, and then you let people decide how important it is. You let people decide whether they love it or not. The reason that folks get annoyed by it is because anytime something like this is presented by any brand, that brand spends too much time forcing it upon you and telling you this is so significant, this is so wonderful. What you have to do is you have to naturally, what you just talked about, like go ahead and make the courts look different and people will decide if they like them or not. Go ahead and do the prize money thing, and the people will decide if it's significant enough or not. And then, let the players express whether or not they care about it. But the problem that everyone has, and I'm kind of in the middle of the road on it, the problem that everyone has is when the NFL rolls out like a Mexico City game or a Berlin game or a whatever, or the NBA does this play-in tournament, or baseball tries to do something new, then they spend months and millions telling you why you should care about it because they're trying to sell it to you. It's just like, stop.
Yeah.
Like, put it out there,
so you don't like,
and I will tell you if it was a good idea or not. And if it wasn't a good idea, then you could shut it back down and you could try another new idea.
Yeah, okay. So you don't like it being forced down your throat. I understand that. I wouldn't want to be forced to like anything either. But OC, what other choice do they have? When you're introducing a new idea, it's all about marketing and advertising. And I mean, you're in the radio biz, selling ads, all that stuff. So it's like they have to do that. And then, yeah, I agree with you. If there's that much backlash to it that people don't like it, then do something different. But in the beginning, in order for you to begin to even think about liking it, it's got to be kind of forced down your throat.
I don't know, man. I'm a believer that things now, especially because there's overexposure to everything. We all know how the sausage is made with media these days. Like even a casual sports fan knows way too much about things like television ratings and contracts and ownership and all that stuff. So I think now more than ever, you have to let things happen on a natural front. And by the way, it's a good idea. Just let it be a good idea by itself. If it's a good idea that then you have to spend $30 million convincing everyone is a good idea, it's not a good idea.
I'm completely with you, OC, on this. And that's why the other reason why I don't love it is I think they do it too early in the season. Well, I think it just needs to move up a little bit because
this is too early itself.
It is. Now, I know why they started in November because they're trying to get more interest in the early part of the regular season. But then what happens when you get into even some more doldrums of December and January, or I guess December is the end of this, but you get to there's some doldrums in end of December and January and most of January and mid-February too, up until the All-Star break, where it's like, this would have been a good time to have something meaningful like the NBA Cup. I feel also the other thing about it, these teams are not playing near their best. So we're playing warm-up games in a tournament that's supposed to be almost as good as the playoffs. Like, I don't know about that.
Hang on, James. Two things. Number one, I think the reason why they do it now is because the football season's still going on. So they want to be as relevant as they can while the football season is still going on. Number two, I think you're totally wrong. I think these players are fully bought in on this thing. And it might just be like, what is it even for the first place? Like 500 grand?
So the Lakers were NBA champions and NBA Cup champions last year. That's what you're saying?
No, they just won the cup. But how much? But how much did they win? What I'm saying is they are fully bought in on this play-in tournament. So I do think the level of play is raised.
Yeah, they might be. The majority of them might be bought in is from a desire level, but they're not in their groove. I think they need a couple of months before they start playing a tournament that's supposed to mean almost as much as the playoffs, the way they're billing it.
Okay, NBA.
Yeah, well, that's if you're getting $40 million a year, you should always be ready to play basketball. I don't care if it's right after the off. You should 365 days out of the year, you should be ready to ball if you're making $40 million a year.
Yeah, shoulda, coulda, woulda. But these guys making $40 million are also resting as much as possible. It's the most aggravating thing about the NBA right now. NBA, I know you listen. I know that Adam Silver's a big fan of the show. Here's the idea: if you're going to do this tournament, do it. The Christmas break is when everyone is really ready to jump on board with the NBA. Christmas time.
I've heard that many times. Yeah.
Like you could start the season at Christmas and people would prefer that. Do this tournament then. Do the NBA Cup at Christmas time when everyone's sitting at home, eating too much food, staying out of the cold. That's when people will watch this. There's very little football that you really need to worry about. Yeah, there's some bowl games on New Year's and whatnot. There's no way that you can do it with no football competition, but run this thing at Christmas time.
And then do the semifinals and the finals in lieu of the All-Star game, All-Star weekend.
Bing. You're welcome. All right. Zachariah actually brought something up that I have not talked about on the show yet. Deebo Samuel of my beloved San Francisco 49ers swung on his own teammates. We'll discuss that next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show. Zachariah featured on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
through. Ranked just ahead of Tennessee is BYU. BYU somehow escaped the holy war, and they are still undefeated. They're ranked 6th, but they would be seeded 3rd as Big 12 champion.
And BYU has escaped a couple times this season, and somehow they find ways to win football games. Look, it is hard to win football games. It's hard to go undefeated. And as they sit at 9-0, there's the respect. But the question mark, they have Kansas this week coming up. The same Kansas team we just saw beat Iowa State. And then they have Arizona State, at Arizona State, who's also still in this picture. So BYU's path, as they've won close games, they have a tough road in the next 2 weeks.
And I'm just
BYU up to number 6 in the college football playoff rankings. That sound courtesy of ESPN. Reese Davis and Jolie Galloway breaking it down. Sean O'Connell Show, Zachariah Hour on a Wednesday. We'll get to some of that BYU discussion, but we didn't talk about this yet. In what eventually was a 49ers win, 3 missed field goals led Deebo Samuel to attacking his own kicker and long snapper on the sideline. I don't know if you saw this, if you were out there watching your NFL football on Sunday, but the culture is starting to boil over for the San Francisco 49ers. And then, of course, the irony is that Moody ended up hitting a game-winning field goal. So, Zachariah, I guess it worked, whatever Deebo Samuel said and did before he hit him?
Well, first of all, flag on you for getting all the way to Wednesday and not talking about this. I don't know, maybe if it's just because it was my childhood, but what is the first thing that you think of when I say athlete and choking?
PJ Carlissimo?
Yes, and Latrell Sprewell.
Yeah.
People who pulled a full-blown Latrell Sprewell. And also the name, Tabor Pepper. Have you ever met a man named Tabor?
I've never met a man named Tabor, no.
No, neither have I. And then the last name Pepper, it's just, everything is just so chef kiss. And like you said, the irony being Moody ends up hitting a game winner after missing 3. They still win. But yeah, I mean, that was another one of those things like Steph Curry looking in the camera and going Ultimate Warrior, something that I can't remember seeing on the sideline, a player choking his own teammate out. I've seen fights amongst, the opposite teams. I have never seen it amongst their own team.
Well, there's also an unwritten rule. You do not go at the kicker because kickers they're weird, like mental creatures, right? And they don't
fragile.
They don't have a physical job, so you don't get physical with kickers. You don't yell at the kicker. You don't go after the kicker. It's like the coach is the one who's allowed to speak to the kicker. As teammates, you're supposed to, they practice separately from everyone. I mean, it is a unique little role to fill on a team. Specialist practices at the highest levels are long snappers, holders, which are usually punters, and kickers, and they're off by themselves. They only even integrate with the team during the special teams periods. The rest of the practice, they're off on their own. Until recently, most colleges didn't even have enough coaching resources because the rules are you could have 10 assistant coaches. So most of them didn't even have a coach assigned to these guys at practice. They would be off.
God, you're making it sound like such a lonely job.
It is a lonely job. Yeah. It's absolutely a lonely job.
That's probably why the whole punters or kickers too hashtag came, or our players too hashtag came out, because you can get ignored easily.
Yes, and you know what? It's actually better when you do get ignored, because much like offensive linemen, kickers, you don't really talk about them much unless they're screwing things up. There's the odd outlier. You'll get like the Sebastian Janikowskis, or you get the Justin Tuckers, you get the Tom Dempseys that are making these thunderous kicks.
Vinatieri, not necessarily the range, but notoriety.
Right, and those guys, you're like, okay, yeah, that guy's like, but there's this, Deebo violated one of the like deeply culture, like unwritten rules of football when he went at the long snapper and the kicker and was just like, do your job. You're screwing this up for us. You're not supposed to do that. Because, Deebo, how many times have you made a mistake? How many times have you dropped a pass? How many times have you missed a block? Well, kickers, when they screw up, it's just a lot more magnified, and you're supposed to leave them alone. They're like racehorses. Or you're not supposed to pet them.
A pitcher in the middle of a no-hitter. Leave them alone.
Yeah.
Don't talk about it. Don't even look at him.
Interesting.
Yeah, you're not supposed.
You know what?
You're not supposed to do this.
I always appreciate when you make me think, and that's making me look at this a little bit differently. And yeah, I guess that makes a little bit more sense. I mean, basically, if Moody and Pepper are like always together and practicing just with each other or whatever, because it wasn't even Moody that he attacked or that went back at Debo. It was Pepper getting Moody's back. So I guess that makes a little bit more sense that they're a little bit more in isolation. So it would be a little bit more of a volatile sort of situation. I think for Debo, it was one of those things where it's like 3 strikes and you're out. You know, he was probably, peed off after the first one. He was peed off after the second one. And he probably said before he kicked the third one, he's like, if he misses this one, I got to go say something to him. So I'm not justifying it. Yeah, I think it was 3 strikes and you're out, even though he ended up hitting the 4th one out of the park.
So here's what is supposed to happen in my mind in something like this, because maybe the most annoying and frustrating thing that can ever happen is if a punter and a kicker are talking trash, or if they're like, so if Moody, he would have been totally justified after this, like after Debo smacked him, to go up and smack Debo and just be like, ha, I just won the game for you, idiot. Like, and now everyone's even again. Now,
that would have been tight. That would have been great. But here's the thing. They keep trying to act like it was a push or a little shove or a little. He full-blown grabbed his neck. This was, you remember the marks on PJ Clemislo after Latrell Sprewell choked him out? That was a full-blown choke. That was not a push. That was not a slap. That was not a punch. That was a choke. I mean, it was a brief choke, but it was a choke.
He pushed him on the neck, Zachariah.
The old neck push.
The old grip neck push.
Yeah, that's one way of phrasing
by the way,
he pushed him on the neck.
The bad By the way, what a bad situation for a long snapper to be the one having to defend the kicker, and the kicker now has to hold the long snapper back. And Debo, he actually goes hand to the neck of the long snapper, and then the follow through makes him hit the kicker's face. It's perfect because it's a 2-for-1.
It's almost like he was more mad at the long snapper, and then Moody was like, I'm going after Pepper here.
No, I'll tell you what happened.
But he wasn't. Yeah.
Without knowing what happened, I'll tell you exactly what happened.
Let's hear it.
All right. Debo said something to the kicker, and because kickers are weirdos, the kicker doesn't say anything back. So Debo keeps saying something to the kicker, and still Moody, because kickers are weirdos, says nothing back, right? And he's there with his sidekick, the long snapper, and he's just like, just ignore him. Don't make eye contact. Don't look at him.
Jake.
But
ignore him, Jake.
But here's another thing you got to remember about most NFL long snappers. Most of these guys were like linebackers, defensive ends, tight ends in college. Yeah. So he's like a regular football tough guy. He's like, no, you can't.
A lot different than a kicker.
He's like, you can't talk to my guy like that, Debo. So now the long snapper, instead of heeding the advice of Moody, who's just like, please don't look at him. Please don't look at him. Please don't say anything. Please. It's like whenever my wife and I are out together and someone gets froggy.
I was getting that wife, hey, just calm down energy.
Like if anyone is giving me bad energy at all, my wife immediately grabs me and is just like, please don't embarrass me. Please don't say anything. That's what Moody is doing to his long snapper. But the long snapper, he's a wild card.
He
all right?
snapped.
He's only making $850,000 this year. Debo's making his millions. And he's like, you know what, Debo, shut up. And now Debo is like, you can't talk to me like that. You're the long snapper. And the long snapper, he's got visions of being like an all-conference linebacker wherever he was at. And he's like, I can say whatever I want, Debo. And now it gets physical. Meanwhile, Moody, the whole time, is just like, please stop it. Please stop it. Please stop it. Oh, it's so glorious. That's how it goes.
And then
I was actually going to make the same analogy. Not to emasculate myself any more than I already usually do on this program, but I was going to say that I would be the Moody and you would be Pepper, except the difference between me and your wife is that I'd be telling you, hey, go take care of that. I wouldn't be saying hey, just keep it moving. I'd be like, man. Hey, this mother bleepers he's trying to punk me. I need you to step in, Mr. Wrestler, Mr. PFL guy. I need you to get in there. So I would be egging you on, not trying to de-escalate.
You gonna let him talk to me like that? Yeah, I could see it.
Exactly.
Also, I mean, Tabor Pepper now has to be like, you're getting peppered every time that happens. He's got to do a catchphrase. I'm gonna snap.
Okay.
Why do you can get long snapped, James, and peppered.
All the cool stuff that we did on the show up until this point, you just wrecked it.
That was really bad. Although if he was smart and he had a good marketing person, he could make some sort of shirt out of this. But the way that James did it, that was bad.
Let me tell you something.
Peppered. Doesn't make any sense.
I'm actually really bothered right now, you guys, because I decided, you know what, to support my very obvious and accurate assessment of how this went down, I'm going to go look up Tabor Pepper and figure out what his history is. Guess what position he played in college?
Long snapper?
Tight end.
Oh.
Guess what position he excelled at in high school?
Tight end.
No.
Long snapper.
No. He's a career long snapper.
What the hell, man?
He's a pretty buff long snapper.
You just talked him up on his behalf, and now he's career long snapper.
Here's a problem with the NFL right now and with high-level football in general. Tabor Pepper is 6'5", 240-something pounds, and he's only good enough to be a long snapper. That body right there, any coach in the country at the collegiate level at least is just like, let me see what I can do with this kid. And he's just a long snapper, man. But guess what? He made it all the way to the league. I've never seen this before where he was a 3-year starter as a long snapper in high school. Prior to his senior season, he's invited to participate in the Rubio's top 12 camp in L.A. as a long snapper. Also participated in national snapping events in Vegas, and he was a member of the Hornet track team. What?
It's an important position. But, I mean, to your point, OC, like if you watch the video and you look at Debo next to Pepper, it looks like, oh, that could be a good fight. You look at Debo next to Moody, and you're like, Debo would beat the brakes off of Moody. So, yeah, you would have thought Pepper – I kept guessing tight end because I didn't know that you could just be a long snapper forever. I mean, that's – I always joked about this with my friends that have kids that are not really athletic. I'm like, just train him to be a kicker now. Like right now in 3rd grade, just get him kicking right now because he could get himself a lot of money in the NFL if he just trains to be a kicker. Like forget about quarterback and wide receiver or tight end or whatever position he's not going to have a big chance of actually making it at. Just train him to be a kicker from the get-go.
Or especially if they play soccer they're pretty good at soccer in like junior high. Like just have him practice kicking field goals.
I mean, Matt Gay, former Utah kicker, All-American kicker at Utah, won a Lou Groza Award, and then went on to win a Super Bowl in the NFL as a kicker. That was a guy who played football as an afterthought after excelling in soccer. You're right. That's just make them kickers, all of you parents of unathletic people or soccer players, same thing.
Also,
unathletic people, soccer players, same thing.
Have them practice holding kicks too, because you can be a great holder too.
I think you can at least. I think you can at least shoot for kicker. I don't think you need to shoot for holder. But yeah, if you really want to lower your standards, there's nothing wrong with making $7 million a year.
If there's career long snappers, then there's got to be someday. There's going to be a career holder.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. You know who Coy Detmer is? The brother of Ty Detmer. Yeah. Coy Detmer played his collegiate football at University of Colorado. Coy Detmer spent a lot of time in the league, and he was just a holder. He didn't do he was a backup, like a 3rd-string QB, and an excellent holder. So there you go, Coy Detmer. Shout out to you. All right, we gotta take a break. What a waste of a segment that was. Oh my gosh!
That was the best segment we've done.
What a terrible radio show this is. I'm so embarrassed. Sean O'Connell Show Topical Trivia. We'll give away some Jersey Mike's gift cards, 2 tickets to Papa Roach at the Maverick Center on April 3rd. That's coming next as we close it out on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM, part of the Utah ESPN Radio Network. Little Papa Roach for you because we're giving away some Papa Roach tickets here to finish the Sean O'Connell Show in the final moments of the Zachariah Hour on a Wednesday. Here's the trivia question, 877-353-0700. You've got Jersey Mike's gift card and Papa Roach tickets April 3rd at the Maverick Center. If you can tell me where Colorado ranks in rushing offense in the Big 12 Conference. Where do they rank out of 16 teams in terms of their rushing output in 2024? Utah's opponent this week, of course, the Fighting Deion Sanderses. Zachariah, you have any words for our good friend Spence Checketts, who's preparing to take over on the drive next?
Is he there?
He's here. He's listening.
Oh, hey, Spence. It's so nice for you to join the handoff. I am honored. No, I was my closing statements, and maybe I'll just ask Spence this, is how do you feel about Syracuse football coach Fran Brown saying that after losses, he does not shower because losers do not deserve soap? Because I am fully on board with this ideology.
I think in a vacuum, it's fine. I wonder how his life partner feels about this, or people that have to hang around him.
Oh, he talks about he talks about it. The wife will not let him get in bed. He said he just brushes his teeth and he sleeps on the couch until he does shower, and then he's welcomed back into the bed.
Well, if he's all right with that. Some people don't like sleeping in the same bed as their spouse. Maybe you snore, so maybe you get better sleep. No issue with it. I am an aggressive, over shower guy. For some reason, I've got to shower when I get up. If I'm groggy, if I wake up early, for some reason the shower indicates that it's time to start the day. And then I usually like to get exercise. Like I was telling Sean, I did hot yoga today. It's miserable. You got to shower after that. And then if there's something going on at night, maybe I hop in for a third shower. I'm the wrong guy to ask because I over shower. It's a bad habit of mine.
Got it. So no way. Yeah. So no way you would apply losers don't deserve soap.
It seems harsh, but a personal choice.
Hey, you know what?
Yeah.
In a sport where you play more than once a week, fine. But you can't redeem the being the loser thing for at least a week. What if you lose going into a bye week?
Yeah.
Now you can't shower for 2 weeks?
What if you play for Utah right now? Because they've had 2 losses in 2 bye weeks. You haven't showered in what?
7 weeks?
Yeah, a long, long time. It depends on the sport. It depends on the current losing streak.
Yeah, you're right.
Junior Tafuna
right.
just stinking it up.
Not very
the wrong guy to choose. That's a big dude. Call back.
Junior, text me. I'll give you Spencer's
Sorry, pal.
address.
Love you.
He just said
and
you're
smelly. And your whole family. Dating all the way back. Big fan of all of them.
Amazing. What a great question to finish out the show.
It is. I'm pondering. You have forced me to ponder a shower question while playing Papa Roach, and now I have to do 4 hours of radio. So I've got to get right.
It's wonderful. By the way, we got the correct answer on the text line. Where does Colorado rank in terms of rushing offense in the Big 12 Conference? Do you know?
I don't think it's very high. At least that's what I would assume.
You're correct.
Okay.
It's, in fact, dead last.
Dead last, yeah.
16th in terms of rushing. And I asked Kyle Whittingham this last night on the coaches show. It's kind of by choice. They don't commit to the run. They don't really try to run.
They don't need to either, right?
He said it's almost Mike Leach in terms of the way they distribute their play calls.
Yeah, and Travis Hunter gets all of the pub because he should, because he's freaking crazy good. I don't know that I've seen a college player like that in my lifetime. But Shedeur has 3 or 4 different little options where they're just intermittent swing passes, get it into the hands of the playmakers, and they've been tough to stop. Did I read Shedeur is averaging 330 yards per game? It's somewhere along those lines? There's averaging 330 per game passing yards.
Is that
tough
good?
To stop. Let me do some quick math on the phone. Yes.
AI
AI says yes. Yes, it's good.
Let's see. What's Shedeur? Shedeur Sanders averaging. Oh, you fool! It's only 320 yards.
My
a game.
bad. I gave him way too much credit. It's nuts, man. They're gonna be 10. Is the line still 10? I haven't checked since this morning. I think it's still 10. They're a double-digit underdog on the road against Colorado. The Brandon Rose thing is official. Okay, I heard that all week. So it's going to be Isaac, I would assume.
It is going to be Isaac. Coach Witt said that yesterday. Isaac Wilson is your starter. Luke Batari is
my
your
guy.
backup.
The freaking Ferrari. That's my guy.
We were talking about how Batari probably doesn't even want to start this game because if he doesn't play against Colorado again, and I'm not super confident they can beat Colorado, he gets to tell people for the rest of his life, undefeated against Deion Sanders, who I think pretty soon is going to be either a Florida State coach or a Dallas Cowboys coach, and he's going to be in coaching for a long time. So the way I described it is 20 years from now, Luke Batari is going to be sitting at some Christmas party playing Two Truths and a Lie, and he gets to pull out that trump card on people.
It's beautiful. Or he could simply just start one of these Kyle Collinsworth man dude accounts where he tells you that alcohol is bad and you should drink more water and sleep more. And the Ferrari could say on his little new coaching header, beat Deion Sanders. And then he would get more disenfranchised young men where he could tell them to eat more protein and to be grateful every day when you're living life.
Undefeated against Deion Sanders.
What did I say?
Undefeated against Coach Prime.
Coach Prime.
We're just
You got to go. You got to go the superlative. You got to go as far as you can. You can't just say beat Coach Prime. Undefeated versus Coach Prime, because then people would have to ask the question: how many times did you play him? It doesn't matter. Get your rest. Drink your water.
Be grateful.
Eat your protein.
Live with love.
Meditate daily.
Why don't you start one of the? You could rake in cash, Sean. Why don't you? You're a life coach as of today. You're welcome.
I'm not doing that.
Undefeated in the Fiesta Bowl.
I can't do it.
$1 million prize fighter, undefeated in the Fiesta Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Author, Renaissance man. You have everything that it takes to out-man coach all these men coaches that are co-opting the thoughts of poor disenfranchised 20-year-olds that just want to learn how to sell on Amazon.
Welcome to AlphaCon.
I can get you a spot at AlphaCon this next year. I did Jimmy Rex's podcast a few years ago. My guy.
I did Spence, his podcast last week.
If he does it, you get 10%.
There we go.
All right.
Done.
All right.
Raking it in.
Zachariah, you get a 50% discount on the exorbitant subscription fee to my life coaching. All right.
Could teach them how to work out.
Yeah. Not gonna do it for free, but you get 50% off.
Cold plunges, black coffee, no cream. Good to go. He'll be a millionaire within 3 months.
Only eat organ meats.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Let's go. All right.
I love the gratitude one you threw
Live
in
with
there
gratitude.
Too. Live with gratitude.
All these Gomers
don't forget that one.
They have the same 5 or 6 talking points. I don't know how they're making any money at all.
My favorite one is the guy who's hacked time.
Yes.
I've got.
He broke his day.
I do 3 days in one day.
Suddenly I'm 3 days ahead of you. What?
He's Kramer.
That's not how that works.
It's the greatest thing. And saying it with a straight face, with passion, is really the key.
I just want to know who sees that ad on their algorithm. They're like, hell yes. $3.99 a month for the same advice every month until you realize you've been had, and by then you've spent thousands of dollars, and they take your money.
Yeah, but the problem is, Spence, he's 3 days ahead of you.
Lion's not sheep, Sean. That's how I live. I don't know about you.
Shout out to my guy. A former MMA fighter, by the way.
Sure, yeah. But you are too.
Never mind that it's a losing record. Never mind that.
You won a belt. You won $1 million. You're a real life warrior, like the movie Warrior. You
what
lived
am I
that.
Doing here?
Yeah, you're wasting.
What am I doing here?
It's James's turn to host midday anyway. Get out of here. Go start your business.
Okay.
Let's get this done.
James, I'm going to teach you how to attack the day.
Yep.
All right. Mm-hmm. Maximize your potential. Sleep more.
Live with gratitude.
Have more sex. Yep. Okay. You're going to win in every phase of your life by following the OC method.
Dark curtains. Set your house at 64 degrees every night. Like they all tell you the same stuff.
Yes.
You need to get in. You need to get in on this grift.
All right. We're going paleo, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned for the drive. Zachariah, thanks for joining me. And look, we made it a full hour because we borrowed 5 minutes from Spence. It's perfect.
Yeah, we did. That's your fault, not mine.
Oh, great stuff. ESPN 792.1 FM. Stay tuned for the drive with Spence Checketts. That's the Sean O'Connell Show on the Utah ESPN Radio Network.